All right, we have a quorum. You've got a document in front of you that has a list of adoption of agenda, approval of minutes, old business, public comment. We don't have it. We have a continuation of the previous meeting, which is that paragraph on there is our current presentation. We gave staff a week to go back, listen to our comments, write them down, and come back and give us how they were going to incorporate it into the plan. So if you would start with the presentation.
Okay, good evening. Let's see if I can get this to work.
There you go.
Hello?
Yep.
All right, good. Okay, well, thank you so much for being here. And I do want to let you know that we have Kona Gray and his team in their design studio via GoToMeeting. So if you look at the screen, you'll see what they see, and you'll see what we see of them in the top right. And so we'll be kind of working back and forth through the presentation, but just bear with us if we have any technical difficulties. I think it should go off without a hitch, but you never know. So I wanted to mention that. And Olivia, do we need to wait for Kona to get back, or did she hear us? Olivia, can you hear us okay?
Doesn't sound like it. Is your mic on? The button keeps flashing off. I don't know. I don't think it's on.
It's blinking red. Maybe I'll switch with this one.
Thinking red, sun.
Yeah.
You can get one to go green. And come in back.
Test.
Here, try this one. There you go.
I'll just take a little bit.
Yep, take the whole time. There you go.
Okay. Third time's a charm. Okay, testing. Kona, can you hear us?
Doesn't sound like
Hold
it.
on a second, Sarah.
Okay.
We have to call back in here.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started while the team works on that. We have had a week, good week since we saw you last Thursday. After your meeting, we had the community engagement, and that went really well. It was well attended. We did get a lot of feedback that was similar to some of the feedback received here, and some that was different. So what we've done tonight is, in your presentation, really, we're going to hone in on what we heard. We want to make sure that we reiterate what we heard, and then also tell you how we worked it into the presentation and into the plan. So I'm going to go ahead and start and open it up, and then I'm going to turn it over to Kona for a portion, and then I'll come back later in the presentation. And of course, we're here to answer any questions that you have. So hopefully everyone received the notes that Tricia sent out that kind of encapsulated what we heard from the last time we met with you. That was sent out via email, and we use that as kind of a guidepost, to make sure that we incorporated the feedback. I think the mic just went out again, didn't it? Okay, so I'm going to try to speak my loudest, but let me know. Somebody give me a signal if you can't hear my voice. I think the only thing is we can't advance the slides from here. Am I correct, Chelsea and David?
You're correct.
Okay.
We're trying to get everyone going.
Okay.
So Kona has to advance the slide?
I think the way that this GoToMeeting is set up, yes.
Okay, I'm going to put you guys on speaker.
Hi, Kona. Hi, Kona.
Okay.
We're freezing.
When you're ready, we'll get it started.
Okay. Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear Sarah?
Can y'all speak to him from over there at the computer?
There, hear you. Can you hear us?
We can hear you.
But not the whole team. I mean, not the whole meeting.
Are you ready for us to start?
Not yet.
Yep. Okay, all right.
Yes. Yep, so I'm going to start and then I'll hand it over to you in a second, okay?
I think you have to be over there to hear it.
Maybe I'll stand over here.
Yeah, I'm standing next to the computer, so you can hear you.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm standing next to the phone. So go ahead and advance the slide.
Okay,
Okay,
Oop, went back.
okay, great.
there we go, it'll come back.
Okay,
There we go.
all right, thank you so much. So this is the kind of summary of the feedback that was received. And I'm going to just quickly go through some of it. And we have incorporated different pieces into different parts of this presentation and into the plan. So I'll talk through kind of where things have been incorporated as we go through. So one of the first ones was identifying measurable goals and objectives. Kona will speak to that in the first portion of the presentation. Metrics for quality of life. There was a big focus on history and history keeping us accountable and making sure that that was preserved within the plan. Defining clear measures of success, which has always been a tough thing for a CRA, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. The pie charts are not included this time. Neither is the spreadsheet, although we can speak to that later if there are questions. 3 to 4 synergistic projects. Investing more in downtown, creating a plan that allows for flexibility and creativity, and we believe that this plan does, and I'll talk more about that. Public realm and streetscape initiatives, we will go one by one through. They're part of this presentation. Of course, tying those to synergy projects is kind of a no-brainer when you see how things are laid out. A lot of these major streetscape or public realm projects kind of feed into these larger project ideas. And then the criteria methodology for prioritizing projects. A lot of that will depend as well on the budget and how we move the budget forward. And then we heard pretty unanimously through you all and the community about a mix of front-loading and even spend, so that kind of mixed approach to financing the work that we're doing over the next 10 years. And then, of course, delineating the use of words, objectives, and initiatives. So some of this related to the plan itself. Okay, can everyone hear me better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I think I still have to stand here for Kona, for your group to hear me, or are you hearing me better now that I have a mic?
I can hear you much better now.
Okay, perfect.
I can hear you better.
I'm going to take my seat so I can take notes while you're speaking, but at this point we're going to turn it over to Kona and his group to start with guiding principles, and then I'll come back around when we get to the initiatives. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Kona. You got it?
Got it.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you all again for your time. We really appreciate it, and we're so excited to see this process coming together, and all your input has really allowed us to make it even better. So first thing we're going to start off with are the guiding principles, objectives, and initiatives. And as Sarah mentioned, I'm going to talk through the guiding principles and the objectives, and then Sarah will pick up the initiatives and walk you through. But just as a little bit of explanation, All right, so let's next talk about the reinvestment objectives. So we went back through our objectives and we made sure that they were still applicable, and we know that these are solid even from our last community meeting after we met with you last. People were definitely understanding all of the objectives. And they're pretty straightforward. We were able to break them down into three categories: economic development, community enhancement, and public space and streetscape. But what we weren't able to show you the other day when we met was kind of the whole feeling that we're trying to achieve through these types of objectives. And as I touched on before, when we look at these types of goals, it's great when the goals complement each other and when they can work together. So the more objectives that tie together, the better and more successful we think the opportunity will be. So in regards to economic development, this is an image that helps sort of illustrate what we're talking about. We feel that there is certainly public-private partnerships that should help drive economic development. We know that having arts and cultural activities build upon that. There's a pretty new development here in South Florida called the Wharf, and essentially what it is it's an outdoor entertainment festival and venue. So there's a lot of activities going on, and adjacent to it are commercial buildings. We think that those facades should be very interesting. There should be small parks and plazas that tie it all together. But most importantly, the whole idea here is that it's fun, and it is place thinking. This is how you get people out to enjoy the community. The next image we're showing you here is our community enhancement, and we feel that this is really the way to make places, more connected, more authentic. So within a community, we suggest that we have the opportunity for having branding, identity, and wayfinding, so people can relate to that community. That we also take advantage of local history narratives and initiatives that could kind of make sure that people understand how authentic a place is. Access to food, and we can do this in several different venues. And one of the venues that we truly enjoy our markets, whether it's a small farmers market or something that happens on a regular basis, or it's a market that is actually a physical market that's there full time. And I think of Palm City Market in Atlanta, and some of the markets that you should all be familiar with that are on the West Coast, places such as Seattle. And then parks and plazas that are integrated into those communities make it even better, and because they can be programmed, they can be activity opportunities, but also places where community members can join and spend time together. And then we always believe that arts and cultural activities sort of mix into this, make this even better as well. And finally, in regards to public space and streetscapes, it's not just about bike lanes. For us, it's about life. Having these sidewalk cafes, having opportunities for people to kind of hang out, come right out of their residence or come out of the shop and walk through these wonderful corridors that are all connected. We think that obviously lighting and safety is important in all these types of environments. Again, integrating parks and plazas and utilizing green infrastructure in the right way to support sustainability is key. And then we definitely know that having multimodal transportation makes it even better. So these are just some ideas, some quick sort of blushes on what we would do in these types of scenarios. Next, we've got these reinvestment initiatives, and Sarah and I will sort of tag team this together. We went through quite a substantial review of our last meeting and went through some discussion. And this is a little feedback that we heard from you, and we think it's important that you understand did hear you mention about some areas within downtown that need some love, such as Litch Park, and the opportunity to have a little bit more mixed use in downtown, and then also to add the Spring Hill neighborhood to our list of opportunities in terms of our initiatives. Then over in East Gainesville, we think this applies to the entire GCRA. We heard you mention placemaking, providing the basics, and this is something that we think is very important in terms of developing community. Adding banking, food, healthcare, hotels, all these things are super important in terms of making life enjoyable. And then the mention of some synergistic projects such as the Infinity Line and the 8th and Waldo intersection, we thought really brought some things to home and confirmed a lot of what we heard and what we proposed as well. We did see that the Waldo Road corridor has some opportunity as well, going all the way up the corridor to kind of tie it all together. This will certainly be the place where we want to have quite a bit of public-private partnership to really make sure that we can take full advantage and leverage the funding that we have. Then finally, as it relates to economic development, we heard you state that you feel that we should expand our programs to not only recruit larger businesses or businesses from out of town, but to support our small local businesses and help them expand. And this was all very positive, and we took that to note as well. So the thing we also heard from you, which we actually had this conversation in our public meeting as well, because the public did chime in when we had these items listed in our project roadmap. So GTEC building maintenance, is that GCRA or should that be general government? The Midtown Police, and we heard you loud and clear that you feel that this really should be handled by GPD and funded by them. Landscape maintenance was mentioned. Again, another thing that it's in our bucket now, but the question is, does it belong there? So should that be public works? And then finally, the downtown master plan was on the list, and it was something that you mentioned to us that we would need to find out, is this something that needs to be in or out? The public was thinking that it didn't need to be in, but we know that in some cases we've heard that people want to have it in and have us be fully responsible for shepherding the downtown master plan through and financing it. So, Sarah, now we're at the project, and I don't know if you want to jump in here now, or if you want to jump in when we get to the fact.
Yeah, I can take over from here.
Yeah, this list of projects is very similar to what you saw before, but we wanted to go give you a little bit more detail, and Sarah can walk you through the actual fact sheets related to all these projects so you know what they are. And as we get through this, we will want to open it up for conversation to get your recommendations in regards to which projects are still relevant, which projects need to be added, which projects need to be removed.
Thank you, Kona. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can't read it.
Okay.
That's an old slide. All the new slides we tried to make bigger. So if you could advance this, so this is just the same slide that was in your last presentation with the redevelopment roadmap, and then we're going to go to larger slides and kind of look at each initiative beneath each of the three categories, starting with community enhancements. So Duval neighborhood improvements was on the list. One thing that we heard was a recommendation to expand the boundary to include the area between Northeast 8th Avenue and University Avenue, and then changing the name to Greater Duval Neighborhood Improvements. So we agree with that, and that will be done. This one, and what we tried to do with each of these worksheets is just talk about, what has already been in planning, design, or construction, and then what's kind of a new proposed project under status. So as you can see, this has been on our work list. There has been some work done. For instance, we cooperated with the Public Works Department to install and pay for the flashing crosswalk next to the CRK Center. So that's something that a partnership that we worked towards making something happen to improve the safety of that crossing. We have also been involved with different city departments on increasing safety at the slab, and then had preliminary discussions about the necessary infrastructure to support the 12 affordable housing lot donations. So some of you have heard about that and the effort on the part of Housing and Community Development to offer those up for redevelopment to a nonprofit. So next steps for most of these that are community enhancements is to do what's called a needs assessment report to just identify, what are the key priorities in this area, and then, to also continue to work with HCD on that land donation project. So just some greater details. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them at the end, but I'll do my best to kind of go through each one of these so that you have a deeper understanding of what it means, because we understand sometimes when you see a name, it's just kind of vague, and there has been a lot of work done on some of these initiatives, and some are just very much in the conceptual stage as well, so I'll note that too. So if you could advance this slide, Kona. So next we'll look at the Heartwood neighborhood. So this is one that's been on for quite a while. We are in permitting right now, ready to start construction of the model home. That's very exciting, I think, for us and for the community and for you all. Next steps are going to be putting out the RFQ for the pre-qualified builders who will be available to build the homes. A Phase 2 GMP for compliance with the Homeowners Association documents. And then finally, we'll be having an informational and sales kickoff event to kick off the starting of construction of the neighborhood. So those are the two kind of next big meetings regarding the Heartwood neighborhood. So if you could advance the slide to the next one. Okay, the Historic Heritage Trail. Sorry, I think I'm going to look up here. It's in a different order. So this one has been ongoing actually since I began in 2009. And the bulk of the work that was done with the history component and the interviews with the community were done almost 10 years ago. Or over 10 years ago now. So this has seen a lot of stops and starts. For a while, we had a board that did not support this moving forward. But we believed it was important to kind of push through. Part of the work that we did when we didn't have the support of the board was really focusing on connections in the Fifth Avenue neighborhood. We did, if you remember, a pretty large sidewalk project down 3rd Avenue that runs from 13th Street all the way to 6th Street. So next steps is really taking this back out to the community once we get the plan done. Because we've got to go back and basically say, here's what we have. Did we get it right? Where are we missing information? And really just engaging with the community to move this forward. We also have a much better understanding of the where the trail can go feasibly, which we didn't have before, and so we'll be excited to bring that back around. Next slide. Porter's neighborhood improvements. So again, another one titled neighborhood improvements. And so what we recommend for each of these first is a needs assessment report to identify those key priorities. Now these are all things that would be brought back to you as the board to give input on the needs assessment and what you believe needs to be done as well in that area. But there has been a lot of work done, as you can see, under milestones accomplished over the years, and we're excited post-plan to get back together, engage the community, and then develop that needs assessment so that we can identify improvements and move that along. Next slide. Community partnership grants. So we spoke a little bit about this at your last meeting. We had the Fifth Avenue Festival come forward for a request for financing for that event, and we believe that it's necessary to write a program around these grant opportunities. We get approached all the time, and we've been asked to bring back a report just kind of showing over the years how many grants that we've offered and, kind of who the major players are in town that come to us and request this funding. But we believe that we need to have a formal program and some administrative process around how to handle these better so that it's not always different parties coming asking and potentially not being vetted beforehand. So I'm going to make sure the requests help support the plan and what the board is trying to do in this redevelopment district and just get a process around it. So that's something that we would bring back to you all for review and consideration, and then potentially have more of a calendar around when the folks come to ask for the funding, and maybe it's once a year, maybe it's once a quarter. We want to get your feedback on that, and also look and bring back kind of what's been paid out, at least over the past, I think, 5 years will be a good indicator for what we'll see in the future. So, quarters of Pleasant Street model block housing. So one thing that we learned from you all in discussing our engagement with housing in the past, we explained our model block program, which is an infill housing project or program, and what it does is incentivize long-term home ownership and the stability of neighborhoods. So what we're hearing from you is more not only affordable housing, but if we can start to look at repairs that need to be done to homes and whatnot. And so what we would recommend is that we have 2 properties where some initial planning has been done and some conceptual information has been completed. And we'd like to bring these 2 back to you all to discuss the properties, what we think is feasible on them, and then discuss ways in which we might layer opportunities for affordable housing on these 2 properties. One idea that we've heard a lot about and spoken to not only people locally but around the state about are community land trusts. That's something that we haven't done as a CRA, but we know that there's a lot of support for that. Are these opportunities for us to partner with the land trust? These are some of the questions that we have. But these are 2 project sites that we have kind of in our hopper. Some work has been done, and we think after the plan, if these move forward, we'd like to come back and discuss, what the options would be and how we might meet your goals for affordable housing in these 2 properties. Next. Property acquisitions and options. So this is one that's always been funded. However, it's kind of funny to speak about because often if we isolate properties that we're thinking of for acquisition, the price goes up somewhat. And so typically what we do with opportunity sites is if there's a site that we're interested in that would connect or help advance one of these initiatives, we typically ask for an option on the property and some time to do due diligence so that we kind of lock in the pricing and we're able to kind of find out if we were to acquire this, what could be done to expand this initiative. You see a picture of our office building. I did want to mention that we closed on that on Tuesday, so the city no longer owns that building, and currently we are leasing back from the new owners until our move to GTech. So the purchaser was, I can't remember their actual name. I'll have to.
Reach is a subsidiary of Partnership for Strong Families.
So the name of it is Reach. So the one of the goals was to put it back on the tax rolls. The Partnership for Strong Families has a different arm of their organization called Reach, which can own properties, and that way they end up on the tax rolls. That makes sense.
Was that profitable for the CRA?
Yep. Yeah.
They bought it for more than it cost to build.
I'd have to go back and look. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but I can certainly get offline and give you all that information.
Question for you on that.
No, it's leased now. I'm just wondering if, the cost to build the project, if it was purchased for more than it was cost to build it, even though it's leased.
We're going to look at $2,010.
Yeah. Yeah, I can circle back on that. I just don't have it off the top of my head.
I do have a question about that, Sarah. So was there any, obviously we want to put it back on the tax rolls, and was there any RPs or any requests, because you're talking about traditionally the neighborhood with Fifth Avenue, all of that road was redone 2009, 2010, streetscaping, utilities, underground, you all did a lot of investment on that road. And the reason why I asked that, we also had Seminary Lane down from there. with respect to putting that back on the property, was there any thought of building anything around that, or how we could look at for things, who we get in there, whether it be a bank or somebody come in there to, I don't know, a store or something else in there? And I guess it would depend on what is it zoned for that property.
So you're speaking of the 802 building?
Yeah, that building right there, your corner of it.
So no, we, as part of this transition from a CRA to a city department, one of the things that we discussed was moving to GTEC. And so the sale was approved, to set things in motion to sell the building. It was listed with a realtor, and that's how it was sold. So the offer that came in was taken to the city commission and approved by the city commission.
Can I ask one more question? Tom? Sure. What about the proceeds of the sale? Do they go to the GCRA? Or do they go
They do. They have to go back into the Fifth Avenue Trust Fund.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a new proposed project or initiative for the GCRA. And so the program goals would be to obviously increase the healthy options and locally grown food for East Gainesville. Then there was also the thought of co-locating a mobility hub similar to the Rosa Park Station downtown, and provide a location for businesses to operate out of. So this is something that, if approved, needs to be scoped out. Of course, identifying partners and budget and whatnot, but this, we believe, could be a major project for East Gainesville. Next slide. Residential improvement programs. So the largest program that we have here is the paint programs. That has been very successful. It's been something I think really great for not only the community but for our team to get involved in, painting houses with the residents. Actually, it's a lot of fun. We'd love to get you all involved in doing it too. But this is something that is very traditional to CRA work, and we've seen a lot of streets, I would say, really start to change, and different property owners start to want to improve their homes because of the homes that are being improved on their street. It's very effective, fairly low cost. We're in the process of revising this program to bring back to you all for review and approval. As with some of our programs, they're quite cumbersome. And so our team has been working to revise those in time to bring back once the plan has been adopted. So you'll be seeing this again. We've also partnered with other local nonprofits such as Habitat for Humanity on different paint projects as well. District-wide landscape maintenance was something that we heard a lot of questions about. There's a few reasons for this. Typically, when we complete a project, it takes about 3 years to fully transition it back to the department who would own the project. It's a little different now because we're a city department. So I'm sure that will change a little bit, but in the past, we had sort of a 3-year transition where year 1 was the warranty period on a project, really looking to make sure that the investment that was made was a good investment, and to make sure that we catch anything that needs to be caught under warranty. Year 2 seems to be where we get an actual cost of what it costs to maintain that project. And then in year 3, we work with those departments, whether they be Parks, Rec, and Cultural Affairs or Public Works, to help them identify the budget, maybe any personnel that's needed, and help transition all the documents and contracts over to that department. So there are some properties that we still maintain. The East Side Gateway is one that we did a long time ago, but we still maintain. The reason for that is because when it was first built, it was all Florida native landscaping that didn't require much irrigation. And we heard from the community they did not like that and really wanted some annuals, perennials, so that it stayed colorful year-round. And so that's one where we've always continued to maintain that because it's not really part of what our public works organization does, that type of intensive landscaping. So we have continued that, and then also in areas like Northwest First Avenue, you can go back. I think he's trying to get me to keep going, but there we go. We also have to maintain the Heartwood and Cornerstone sites as well, and South Main is one that we just completed that we're now maintaining. So this is one where we have received a lot of feedback that we shouldn't be in this business anymore, so that's something to consider.
Can I ask a question, or do you want to kind of wait till we get this?
You want to hear questions as you go, or wait till the end?
It's up to you all. What?
We'll try to keep it short. I don't want to get bogged down.
All right. Yeah, so my question is really is about this one and the next one. Maybe stick to this one for now, but I'm just wondering about in terms of the maintenance, and because there is a 10-year window, and I think we have to think, so what happens after that? These are operating funds as opposed to capital funds. Is there any mechanism the city could entertain something like a maintenance endowment where there are funds generated beyond the 10-year that allows Public Works and Parks to enhance their operations, proceeds of some kind of endowment, so this can be kept going?
So let me try to address that. For those who don't know me, I'm Lee Feldman, I'm the city manager. Traditionally, at the end of CRAs, the TIF returns back to the city, general fund. That will happen here as well. So the annual contribution, which is about $3.6 million, would revert back to the general fund at the end of that 10-year period. It's always been my expectation that those dollars then roll in to maintain the capital that's being constructed by the CRA.
I had a question about, actually, I'm just going to wait till she goes.
It'd be a lot easier if we waited till we got
Yep.
there, otherwise we won't get through it.
Keep on? Okay.
Yep.
All right, next slide, please.
Or the next slide?
Yep, Midtown Policing. So this came up years ago. We were, as a CRA, able to do what were called pilot projects, where we're able to fund policing pilot projects for up to 3 years to help address concerns in certain areas. So since then, it's transitioned a little bit to help cover overtime costs around the Midtown area, and so that was one that has been recommended for deletion by you all and by the community. But I don't think the fund should be used in that way, so that's just something to consider.
And just to echo on that, we have no objection from a general fund standpoint with that $200,000 being reallocated somewhere else within the CRA. Keep in mind it's old money, so it would have to stay within the districts that generated it.
Next slide. Eighth Avenue and Waldo Road. So this one says proposed. We have always thought that this is a crucial corner for the redevelopment of East Gainesville. We are very excited about this opportunity. We provided a map from Sri Sela's presentation that she did. I can't remember which meeting, but I know it was before, was it January? Okay. Which kind of shows you what portion of that initiative, which, although it says 8th and Waldo, there's a lot of different discrete projects that would come together to do this overall economic development project. But you'll note that the area that's within our district is Citizens Field, and then it goes east, kind of down adjacent to Waldo Road, and then kind of comes back around south of 8th Avenue to catch that corner, and then of course everything to the east. So one thing that we heard here was potentially bringing on the Infinity Line project. We have heard conceptually from one of our staff members what that project is. It was his capstone project, I believe, for his degree. And we think there's a lot of validity to it. It's basically connecting the rails to trails in a way that would make a complete connection in a figure 8. But it does involve some major capital investments, including an overpass over this intersection and some other ideas that we have not looked into, but we know that it's a priority of this board. At least it's been expressed that way. So we're willing to look into it. This is a project that has many different partners. So as you can see, there would need to be a significant investment from the city in order to really turn the south and northern sections of 8th Avenue and Waldo around. The city has all those assets in the buildings around Safety City and the fire buildings. And then also the MLK Center. And so we're excited to be a part of that. And as our role becomes more developed, I think we'll be a major partner here. Right now, there needs to be some property acquisition. That would probably be our main focus moving forward. So former fire station number 1 redevelopment is also a new proposed project. This is a great building. We've invested a lot on South Main, and this I think would just continue the work that we've done down there, including Lynch Park. I know that was a request from a few people to try to do something with Lynch Park. That is a CRA project from within the past decade. I don't know if you remember what Lynch Park used to look like, but we put a lot of investment into turning that into a dog park and park for people as well. So we understand that there are issues of safety around this area. I think redevelopment of this building will help a lot with that. And then, we can kind of look to see what the appetite is for repurposing Lynch Park. But this is one that we would be excited to work on. And I think it would start with some sort of solicitation, which is being put out by another department.
It's on the street.
Okay, it's on the street. Okay, so I won't talk about it much anymore. But there is an opportunity for redevelopment, and we've been asked to be a part of that.
You said wait for the question.
I think it would be easier to just go through. I mean, if you have just something you want to clarify, go ahead and ask it, that we get into the descriptions and back and forth.
Okay, I will wait.
Okay. I wonder if you have a clarification.
I do it. Can I ask because I'm going to leave in a few
Yes, ma'am.
minutes? Just quick, I do have, because I know it's probably going to come up, I do, with the Lynch Park, my concern about Lynch Park, real quick, just to make this brief, is we put a lot of money into Lynch Park, I think in 2008 or 2009, at the request of the community. My thing is, it is in disarray, and it's not doing like was purpose, but is that a CRA issue, or is that the departments that are supposed to be maintaining that? And that's my only concern. I don't want us to start going behind. It may not be. I can't remember if it was Public Works or parts of who it went to, because I know after we finish the CRA, usually it's assigned to a department. But if it's in disarray, shouldn't the Public Works or whoever, and if there's issues with vagrants, which I know that's a main issue, like you say, this building is, I agree, is probably going to do a lot to curb that, but if it doesn't, that's a policing department.
Correct.
So,
It's a issue between Public Works, Parks and Rec, and GPD at this point. It's not a CRA issue to fix the issues at Lynch.
Sarah, I have one question for you real fast. On 8th and Waldo project, you mentioned the city's partners. Can you go into more depth on that? Really quickly, who are the city partners involved with that particular project?
Yeah, I think the major partner is Wild Spaces Public Places. Then there's some private landowners.
Okay.
And let me just emphasize, I think the county and the school board need to be additional partners at the table, especially with regard to anything that happens as citizens.
Are there any other city departments that are involved in this?
Well, the fire department, so I would say it's general government, which includes wild spaces, public places, which we will be having a discussion with the commission at their GPC meeting on March 12th about the next allocation of funds on there. But this corner is going to require a heavy lift, and it cannot be just CRA funded alone. Use up everything you have. So.
My question is on the 8th and Waldo Road. I know there's been a lot of discussion that I've been in about a event center in that area. Is that something that we could look at
The answer is yes. So we're not going into this with any preconceived idea at this point as to what 8th and Waldo should look like at its completion. I know the event center has been talked about. The question is defining what an event center is in this region. Is it the same type of thing that the county is talking about at Celebration Point? Is it something different? How does it serve the immediate community? How does it create an economic impact? All that really needs to be discussed. And so we're not coming in saying at this point 8th and Waldo needs to look like anything specific. And it's going to take, I think, a good year to 2 years to work with the community and the neighbors to determine what 8th and Waldo will be. And again, that's going to be with not only with the community and the neighbors, but with the funding partners as well. Wild Spaces Public Places through the City Commission, the county, which also has some potential wild spaces money, the school board, which is the tenant, the sole tenant at Citizens Field. So I think there are a lot of stakeholders that are all going to have to sit down and hash this out.
Member Fox, I think you recall was a conceptualization plan presented to the board with some of those ideas that come forward in the next April meeting.
Okay, go on.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarah.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. I think, did we skip over the RTS site?
We did.
If you can backtrack, so everyone knows the RTS site south of Depot Park. Great opportunity there. This is a new proposed project that we lead the redevelopment of that site. If approved, next steps would be to develop that scope and identify partners and budget. But we've always felt like this could be a really great opportunity for redevelopment. Over the years, we've heard everything from people wanting housing there so that they could overlook the park, people that have been interested in signing their business there, and this has been a site that's been in the news a lot over the past decade, and so I think its redevelopment is paramount to the continuation of the investment and the work that's been done in that area. Next slide will be the Innovation District. So this is one that's just still in progress. There have been so many milestones achieved along the way. New development is going up all around the district. Right now, our main involvement with that are these development agreements that help extend the work that was done along 9th Street. One was executed with the project on the south side, continuing the 9th Street work onto private property. And out of that, we have an easement in perpetuity with the city. The city and the public have access to that area, and it's maintained by the private developer. We're underway right now with another approved development agreement on the north end. I think that's what this is a picture of, an in-progress picture of that with the extension to the north. Next slide. And Power District redevelopment. So this is one we talked a little bit about at the last meeting, but next steps for this would be the RFQ for a real estate broker who would help move this redevelopment forward. Next slide. Okay, next slide is University and Waldo mixed use development. So I believe this is the one where we were trying to identify some economic development projects that would help stimulate not only that intersection, but the east side as a whole. Again, if approved, this is new to our work plan. We would need to develop the scope with you all, really identify who the partners are, the budget, and what we'd like to accomplish at that intersection. But another opportunity intersection. Commercial facade grant program, this is also one that is on pause for revision. We have honored many paint program and facade grant applications while they've been on pause because there were some folks that really wanted to move forward. But we intend to come back with this one as well after the plan is adopted, just to try to make it more user-friendly. And so we'll be bringing it back before the board to look at the proposed changes, to try to make that not only user-friendly for the property owners, but for staff as well. It's been very successful. It's a matching grant program and paid out at the end after the work is done.
Can we go back to Power District real quick? I wanted to ask about that.
Sure.
If there's an RFQ for a real estate broker, does that mean you've abandoned the idea of a power district? I mean, it sounds like we're just trying to sell it off if we're just looking for a real estate broker for it.
So no, I mean, there is a master plan for the area, and so I believe the direction will be to the real estate broker to help find partners who are interested in helping carry out that redevelopment plan. The city managers are here if you'd like to add to that, but that will.
Clear, you don't have an RFQ on the street.
We do not have one on the streets, but it's being prepared to go out.
The intent is to get a broker with a national network that can attract a developer or developers to the area to work on the parcel. So it's not just to sell it off, but it's to have a developer come in, show us the plan, and we would select ultimately the developer based upon what the plan is, and not just the monetary return on of assets. So the idea, and this has been done by cities elsewhere, it's basically to get a master developer in to be responsible for putting in the infrastructure piece, work with the city and the CRA to determine what infrastructure would be our burden versus their burden, and then to move forward with the development over a period of years.
Okay. I guess, to me, it sounds like it's a little cart before the horse if we're getting a broker out there before, I mean, is that something we learned from the last iteration of the Power District? Is that trying to go forward, seeking the developers via CRA wasn't as effective as, is that,
Yeah, I thought we had someone from Boston.
Yeah.
Try to do it or something, and then.
So I will tell you, just from my past experience in doing projects similar, is that it is easier to attract the developer in if you tell them that this is the general concept that you want, but that you have flexibility in terms of ultimate product and design, which ultimately is still approved before you ever enter into an agreement on there. So instead of telling the developer this is the box you have to fit into, you say, it's okay to shift it around or come up with your own theme or move a road or whatever ultimately works to make it the best development to the highest use and most productive use of the property. So the brokers that I've experienced in the past aren't just merely putting up a sign that says, here is this property is for sale. They're out there trying to find the individuals or the firms that have the wherewithal, have done this type of development in the past, bring them to the table and come up with a project or projects that will benefit the city and through the CRA.
Okay. Have we finalized the boundary on it? Because that was the other big concern, was whether or not certain pieces were going to be included, or if we're moving.
I'll defer to Sarah, but I believe before I arrived at the city, there was an adjustment to the boundary to add more land.
And we have done that. We have decided to include those pieces that they.
So to answer your question, yeah, there was a motion to that effect, and so when we do go back out, there is a revised boundary.
Okay.
I have a question. Where are the boundaries for the power district?
Well,
I heard about some apartments being built in the power district.
So when we refer to the power district, it's about 16 acres, and we can send you a copy of the map. That also includes the additional parcels that were added. The ones that were added were city-owned parcels.
Like where the old GRU is near GRU.
Yes.
In the parking lot.
Yes.
Okay, Member Palmer. I guess, if we could also get clarity to your point about the power district, if we could also get a definitive boundary guideline for downtown and urban core too, as defined, that would be helpful too. To quantify and classify what is downtown,
Yeah, I
midtown.
guess I'm being a little probably coy in my questioning, but I guess I was wondering, did this building get added to the boundary?
It did,
Okay. And then there's the overflow lot as well over there by Depot?
yes.
Okay.
So those bed and breakfasts would be part of the power district too, correct?
No.
No.
So just an area around Kelly?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
The power
I'm good.
district,
I'm with you, thank you.
yeah, and we'd be happy to send that out even
That's fine,
tomorrow.
I'll do that, I'm done, that was, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Carly, is that near you, the power district?
Directly in front of it.
That's what I was thinking, where the community garden is.
Right.
So, what are the plans for that area? Is that where the apartment complex, the high rises are going to be built?
So I don't know of any high rises in permitting, but is your plan about the community garden?
No.
Or your question rather?
I think what we heard was that the RFQ would ask the real estate broker to come back with some ideas that we might use. So there's no plan today, let's see what we can be able to come back to.
Yeah, there's just the master plan for redevelopment of the area.
And I think the project Ms. Fox is referring to maybe, I've heard that the Gray Bar property may be for sale or on the market, and somebody is trying to come in with an apartment complex at that location. That's the only one that I'm aware of in this general area.
I want to clarify, when a developer from Boston was in the picture, and the wonderful part about their plan was 20% affordable, but they were talking about multi-story buildings directly across, directly west of the community garden and on down into the area that GRU has vacated. And that was something that creates some friction with us in the areas.
So that's no longer.
I think what you're asking about is there's a developer that something with high density in that area.
But that's not happening.
We don't know yet.
We're coming back
There's not
to
a
square.
plan.
Not a
For that.
Right. Yeah, I was
The
just,
developer
sorry.
will come back as part of the RFQ process,
Okay.
and the community will have a chance to look at the plans that are proposed. Yes.
I have a real quick one. I know this is like, we'd be looking out for people, but I remember when we picked the Boston person, I thought like more than half the board, downtown board, that was for a local company doing it. I would just like really push when we get to that point for a local company instead of a national. Someone from Boston or Austin come here and like let someone from Gainesville create enough jobs here. Just like a Ford. I know it isn't the right time.
Good point.
All right, let's keep moving.
Yep. Okay, Cornerstone Campus. So this is one that we also have listed with a real estate firm. As you know, the sites have utilities stepped out and are ready for redevelopment. We're excited as part of the GTech management that we took over last summer to start working with the 34 tenants that are in that building, seeing, who's ready to move out, who's ready to build a building here. So this is kind of the catch-all for our redevelopment efforts at the Cornerstone campus. Next slide. ED Finance Program. So this is an area where we know we're going to grow as part of the transition to a city department, and as per the reorg that just happened, we will be assuming all the economic development role for the city of Gainesville. And so with that, we have the opportunity to expand the ED Finance programs, but we'll also be taking on the work of Eric Bredfeld, who's been the ED point person for quite a while with the city. And so as we pause to revise our programs, you may remember we have two active programs. It's company relocation and job creation incentive programs. Those have been utilized. They're not very popular, and so we will be looking to expand those and to find ways in which we can support small, local, diverse businesses in Gainesville. So those programs will be coming back to you for revision and then also for input on additional programs. And I think one of the first things that we'll need to do is really highlight the work that we're assuming from Eric and his department to see kind of how that fits in to the overall programming that we'll be managing moving forward.
Did you just say you were taking over? Maybe I misunderstood you. Yeah, I thought I heard you. So if I'm understanding, the CRA is taking our economic development from the town development department from Eric Burfield?
Yes.
So where's Eric Burfield going?
To a new department.
She said city, not county.
Oh, I know city.
Okay,
but
city,
I
yeah.
understood. Okay, that's me.
Yes.
Okay.
Next slide. Okay, downtown master plan. So this is one that is just beginning. There is a group that's been meeting to discuss the downtown master plan and doing some sort of solicitation in order to get a team on board to move this forward. So we've been asked to be a funding partner on this, and it's being led by the Department of Doing.
Who is the group that's meeting?
It is city manager's office, our team, Eric Bredfeld, ED, and then planning.
Okay.
Next slide. GTech management. So this is a little bit misleading. GTech management, we did receive some feedback that no one wanted us managing GTech. However, that will be our home in a few months. We have been managing the leases since last summer and are in the process of really trying to reposition that building for the future. We believe at the CRA that it is a real asset that could be working a lot better for the city and for the community. So as we move over there, we have also completed what's called a building needs assessment. The building is 20 years old. There are some things that need to be fixed right away. They're just ADA issues or safety issues. So we'll be working with the city facilities to kind of get those addressed. But in December, when the mortgage is paid off, the city has the opportunity to kind of rethink how it utilizes that building. And so between now and then, we will be coming forward with some ideas for how we kind of repurpose this building to house all of our ED programs and to roll out our programs for small local diverse businesses. We want to continue this building being community facing, but make it even more community facing. You know, a place where people can come and receive services of all kinds, you know, for small local diverse businesses. And then one other important thing is that there's always been a disconnection in my time with the CRA between this building and the innovation hubs in Alachua. And so we've been meeting with those groups to try to figure out, you know, if we have small local diverse businesses at GTech who are interested in some of the classes and some of the programming that's happening at the hub and up in Alachua, you know, could we join these properties together so that, you know, folks at the iHub and in Alachua can come to GTech for some of these classes and vice versa, but really helping connect the entrepreneurial community between those three properties and beyond. There's a lot that happens for free at those buildings. If you haven't had a tour, it might be fun to get this group together to get a tour of the Innovation Hub 1 and 2 and to hear about the programming that's going on. But we'll be looking towards, you know, how do we really connect this and make it an integral piece of our entrepreneurial community and get more people over there. There's also an opportunity to reposition it to also have potential food markets there on a regular basis and, you know, just do more with the community with that building. So it's not just management, although we are the managers of the building. I wanted you to kind of understand the thinking behind this, and we really think this could be a pivotal property moving forward that can impact East Gainesville in a really great way in the community as a whole, and also get it more connected with the entrepreneurial ecosystem that already exists.
Have we done an after actions review for this? Since you raised just two valid points. In your time and in my time here, is since Santa Fe has taken over, have we done an after actions review and a cost benefit analysis of how that partnership with Santa Fe is benefiting both the city and the community overall? And then the second part of my question is, I'm looking at efficiency for government overall. Is it going to be more efficient to maintain them, being the Santa Fe, and maybe that's not a discussion we have today, but going forward, because overall, there's a cost to everything, and if it's not benefiting the community or the city as overall, we may need to look at that relationship.
So when we renegotiated the contract with Santa Fe last year, it was only for 1 year, and it expires when the mortgage is paid off in December. And so part of our discussion with the commission at that time was that during this year, we would look to see how that relationship was working, and what should it look like moving forward. And so that will all be up for discussion, and we'll be bringing back information in regards to that as part of this kind of repositioning process. Next slide. I think we're at public space and streetscapes now. You can advance to 13th Street corridor. And so I'll go pretty quickly through these, but these were opportunity corridors that have been proposed for us to take a real look at. As you know, can you move the slide?
Okay,
So I'll just keep going forward in the interest of time. We have, okay, great. 13th Street corridor improvements. So this is one, we actually have put a lot into 13th Street on the south side, south of University Avenue as you go down towards the Southwest 13th Street overpass. But there is still a lot of opportunity along this corridor, and so this would be, if approved, developing a scope for that and identifying what improvements could be made. And 2nd and 4th Avenue I'll speak to together. Those are major corridors east-west that go from the university, really, you can follow them all the way east. So in our minds, how do they become really good connectors between the university, downtown, and even beyond? And what's the opportunity there? You may have seen, I think, although they were taken off the streets throughout the nation, but the, I can't even think of the name of it, what do we call them, the little bus?
The autonomous vehicle?
Yeah, the autonomous vehicle, but there's some nickname that was going around, I was going to try to think of it. But, this is where the autonomous vehicle operates. There's also this very heavy pedestrian and bicycle and scooter traffic that goes back and forth here, and they're just incredible connectors with an opportunity to really connect east and west. So that's one that we would be interested in looking at. Again, this is proposed, and if approved, we would start working with stakeholders to develop what that scope would look like.
I have a question. Our whole family was right over here. I live near there, and they have been working on it almost for a year. And they're doing the underground cable, I think, because I spoke on that at the commission way back. But once you go all the way to 4th Avenue, and if you check the side streets, like where all the old sheriff's department and Kim Barton's, I thought there was going to be a connector between the Cotton Club on 7th Avenue and all those streets in between. And there is a bridge there that really needs some repair, something to make it look. It runs right on the Sweetwater branch. And I think when they were doing the Cotton Club case, in the renderings, they said they were going to do something, but I haven't heard anything more about that. Can you look into that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I put it.
And that does connect to Springy Old neighborhood.
So that's a good one. We'll find out and report back. So if you could advance the slide, I think we're now at University Avenue corridor improvements. So this is proposed between 13th Street and 6th Street, but I think our focus and what we've been asked to do is really look at the properties along the corridor and what can be done within the right-of-way. So this is one where a scope would need to be developed and identified, but there seems to be a lot of energy around really looking at this portion of University Avenue. Oh, I'm sorry, I just kept.
He needs to advance the slide
I
again.
advanced.
Yeah, she moved on, he had it.
Sorry.
You were trying to get out of there.
Yeah, I think he's 2 behind.
Hang out there.
I'm sorry, I'm on University Avenue corridor improvement.
Just so, but you guys are still.
Go on the wall, but
Okay, so I'll keep going on the physical slides if you want to follow along. And for those who are here in the back, there should be some additional copies of the presentation on the table when you walked in. If not,
Sarah, I can tell you, this is really well done.
thank you.
Very well done.
Thank you. Thank the team. Waldo and Williston, we know, are 2 key corridors, depending on, which part of the street you're on. But this is really looking at Southeast 10th Terrace to Northeast 39th Avenue, which is a pretty long way. Looking at how, to me, this is more about economic development, how can we encourage development along the corridor. Sorry about the interruptions. If approved, developing the scope and, identifying who our partners are with the budget and whatnot.
The access code you entered is invalid.
Is it okay if I call him real quick on this? He's having trouble here.
Okay,
I'm sorry for the interruption.
that's okay. So I believe that gets us through the end of the project fact sheets. I'll move really quick into the reinvestment opportunity sites slide and then the success measures as well, because those were
Please enter your
they're
access.
the next 2 slides after. So one
Oh,
thing.
yeah. That's the one, too.
So we're on this page for those of you who are following.
To enable audio control.
So again, the reinvestment opportunity sites, this is a compilation of the feedback that was received. Just kind of showing where those economic nodes can be. And we got asked a lot about success measures, and we got a little bit into it last time. But there's qualitative and quantitative. So with the qualitative success measures, the Vitality Report did a great job of really those quality of life issues and how the community felt about our work and how it impacted their quality of life. When we did that a few years ago, what it did is create a baseline from the work that was done. And so what we wanted to do with the Vitality Report is repeat that throughout the next decade. So looking at those same questions, looking at where life has been improved and how we defined what vitality is was by those indicators, if you remember, the 6 indicators. So that's a survey that can be repeated, and we would recommend implementing that at years 3, 5, and 9 as kind of an internal gut check with the community on those qualitative measures. On the quantitative measures, there's a few things that we'd like to highlight. One that Kona mentioned last time is just, initiatives being completed on time and within budget over the next 9 years, which is a big indicator, but also taking on more programs. We do report each year to the state level and really look at economic development, and redevelopment is economic development. So the questions really are around how much money was spent and how much money does that leverage? What's the total investment that it leveraged? And so that's a report that we do every year that I think we can implement as part of qualitative and quantitative measures of success, and really look at from year to year and track how many dollars are going in, how many dollars are being invested into our redevelopment district because of the money that's going in. And then another layer for the quantitative analysis is the land use economics. So if you remember, we presented on that, really looking at what are the most valuable properties per acre. That was very effective to kind of look and overlay where the CRA had invested dollars, how much they had invested, and how that increased the value of these properties over the years. So that's another quantitative indicator that we believe we can use moving forward. So that kind of gives you our thinking on the qualitative and quantitative sides of success measuring moving forward. And again, most of these would be triggered at 3 years, 5 years, and 9 years. And then, we could do it after as well. So in closing, I think we're nearing the end. We talked a little bit about budget implementation strategy. Again, the mix of both approaches is what we heard loud and clear. I think what we're looking for today is some kind of final feedback on the roadmap and the initiatives that were discussed. We really are eager to know if you feel like we've heard your comments and addressed them, through the presentation and through the worksheets. We realize that there's some more work to be done before the March 5th presentation. And so we can kind of talk about how to circle back with you all before that and get you involved, or at least attend the City Commission meeting. But we'll be looking at financially kind of that mixed approach and decide on, is that going to be done at the City Commission or will that be done as part of the budget process afterwards? So as you know, we used to have a standalone budgeting process that followed more when the money was received and when we received information from the county at the end of each calendar year. That's how our funding was calculated. It's different now, it's just a contribution from the city and the county, and now that we are a city department, we'll be part of their budget process, which starts very soon. I see Diane Wilson in the back, so if there are questions about that calendar, I'm sure she can tell you, but moving forward, we will be included with all the other departments in that budget process. In fact, we had our first quarterly meeting, I think last week, where they brought us into the fold and we really got an understanding of what that budget process will entail. So as an advisory board, you will be walking with us through that budget process. In closing, I think if we can go to the, we can skip that, I think, and go to the ongoing engagement timeline. The next step for us is the City Commission with the public plan unveiling event in the middle of March. And then again, the joint city-county meeting the last day of March on the 31st. And with that, I will open up for questions and comments. Thank you so much for your attention, and I also wanted to thank you for your patience with our AV. We were trying to do the best that we could to have everyone here for you, and sometimes it works better than others, but thanks for your patience.
Before we start going around, we'll start with Mr. Blunt in just a moment. I would remind everyone that we have the booklet that we had last week, and then this as almost an appendix document to that. I want to tell staff and Conan and his staff as well, the amount of work that was done in a week to turn this around. Listening to our comments here, I attended the public meeting last week as well. We took a lot of information, you turn it around into a document. It's clear that we were heard. And we appreciate the response to that.
Thank you.
So as we as a board go through this tonight, remember we got the two documents that kind of work together. We're trying to work through and get to approval this evening if we can. So with that, we'll start with Mr. Blount, work our way around the road.
On the 13th Street corridor, I want to suggest that on that corridor, at least from Northwest 8th Avenue down to Southwest 16th Avenue, the city should not be spending another penny beyond ordinary maintenance without university participation. They ought to care just as much about what that street is looking like. And I want to ask about the Midtown policing. Is that following... Is what we're supporting, are we stipulating that it follows a model, something like COPS model, community-oriented policing? And the reason I'm asking is, I want to see policing that is familiar with, that is grounded with the community, so we don't see abusive incidents. We're less likely to see abusive incidents. So if we're investing in policing, we need to insist that it's a model that is community supported.
And I don't know if that was a question, but just to clarify, in the plan as it is now on the roadmap, it would just be funding overtime in that area. It would not be us working with them on any programmatic changes.
Yeah, but if you put in money, you should be able to say something about how it's
I hear
how
you.
the communities interact with it.
And this document says our feedback is that this advisory board recommends deletion of this
I will tell you from my perspective as the manager, I am perfectly fine if you delete it, this evening, and it just doesn't move forward. So, I mean, the 200,000, I think, was originally designed as a pilot program to hire ambassadors. That migrated to funding overtime on there, but at this point, you're just recognizing that you'll have to keep that money within that original district since it's old money. You can delete it as a program, and you can just strike it at this point.
Question for clarity. Are you saying the 13th Street and 6th Street, we can delete that?
No, the Midtown policing item.
Oh, well, yeah, I'll ask that question when we get to it, but since we talked about it and said it should be funded by the police department,
Yeah, we would just fund out general government.
also you're going to give more money to the police department.
Well, I didn't necessarily say that, but.
Okay. Well, that's what it sounds like, because if they don't have any more resources, finances, how are they going to police it? They need more money.
Or they need to reallocate some other dollars. I mean, for example, I don't want to get into a lot of tangents, but I'm going to have a discussion with the commission on March 5th as to whether we should continue participating in the county's aviation units, because we end up funding 73% of it. So, I think there may be some other dollars that we're currently spending one way that we can spend other ways.
So, Mr. Blount, will you finish? Is that the end of your comments?
Okay. So, thank you for the presentation. Just so that I'm clear, is what we are approving these slate of projects? Okay. And that right now you'd like recommendations, if we have any recommendations on what should be kept and deleted? Okay. So, I think I'm fine going forward. The deletions are noted that we've already recommended, so I think that you've already captured that. I would like to just ask, will we have some flexibility in the future? Should priorities change? Should, projects come up that aren't currently on this project list? I mean, will we as an advisory board have the ability to review those, make recommendations? And so this is just...
Yeah, I can speak to that. I mean, similar to, did you want to speak as well?
The simple answer is yes.
Yeah, the simple answer. I was just going to say too that within the old redevelopment plans, you can read those, and there are some project ideas that are pretty sussed out in those plans. But then there were other major corridors and, areas identified where we knew that the community wanted additional investment. So I would think about the plan in that way. This will be our roadmap, right? Even within Eighth and Waldo, I think you see now the different opportunities that are there. And so that gives us the wiggle room and for the manager to decide kind of what our role will be and, how we will contribute to that happening overall. But certainly there are ideas that come along the way. I think the important thing is that we go back to the objectives, go back to everything that's in the plan that kind of sets up what we're trying to do for the next 10 years. Is it implementable within the time frame? Is there money available to move forward with that? And then, of course, that would come all the way back through the board and the commission for approval.
Right, okay. That's great. I think that satisfies my questions. Just as a note, I don't know if it's helpful to any of the other advisory board members. I went through and counted because it wasn't explicitly clear other than just in the title what was new and what was existing. And it looks like there's about 13 of each. There's about 13 existing projects and 13 new projects that's being proposed as part of this plan, if that's helpful to anybody else. So that's good. I feel comfortable with this, knowing that our hands will be tied for future, kind of future decisions that we would like to recommend. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, just first a question, I guess it's a little further clarification for what we're adopting and what will be recommended to the commission. It's basically the book we saw last time with the last section, the actual reinvestment plan portion replaced by these slides. Is Is that?
Yes, it would be
basically what it-
amended.
what-
Yeah, it would be amended to include this information. And we were pretty clear when we left last time about the addition of the slides that you all were not favorable towards. A lot of it included the pie charts and the spreadsheet and whatnot, and so those have been removed.
Okay, so it would really replace these pages of the book? Okay, all right, so that's clear. Then my other comments, and I've kind of spoken on this every time, so I'm sorry if I'm beating a dead horse. I'm happy to see, though, that I think in Member Mitchell's written submittal, he was kind of opining on some of the same things I've talked about in terms of how we use the words goals and initiatives and objectives and measures and so on. And I really agree with a lot of what he said in here about that. I guess what I'm looking for is some kind of a framework that we can use, as we revisit these priorities, as we're, doing budgets and setting priorities and working on scopes among the things that we are, the general projects that we're putting in here. We'll have decisions to make later about the details. And I just don't think I really see kind of a decision framework that I would like to see. You have mention of a vision, but the mention of a vision on the very first slide, and it basically says we have a vision, which is the guiding principles. So it's kind of, okay, is it a vision or is it guiding principles? And then you have guiding principles that, to me, I think maybe those are the objectives, and it's sort of, I think, what Member Mitchell spoke about as outcomes, which is the way I like to think about it too. His whole thing on outcomes and outputs makes a lot of sense to me. But the guiding principles kind of sound more like outcomes to me. And then, what you talk about as objectives, those three items, to me still sound like they're kind of categories of initiatives, and that's even how it's presented. When you present the initiatives, you're categorizing them by those. So to me, they still are kind of the initiatives. You've started to talk a little bit more in here about measures of success on this last slide, and again, Member Mitchell did too, and I think both he and staff had started to come to the conclusion that some of these themes that were identified in the Community Vitality Report, that maybe those are kind of a direction that can take you with your metrics and your indicators. I never really thought they worked really well for evaluation criteria, though, just in terms of thinking about the decisions we'll make about these particular projects. So what I still don't see is that evaluation criteria. We've talked about a number of things, like the synergy projects, like having partners. You mentioned that several places, but I think thinking about that as a criteria. We've talked about the ROI. We've talked about a number of things that I think you captured in the comments from last time, but I still don't see them here. So I think that's still what I'm looking for, is that a real solid hierarchy that gives us vision, objectives, initiatives, evaluation criteria, and measures of success. And we can call those depending on how you want to structure it, but I think we just need to be consistent. It needs to be a real hierarchy that links all the way up and down.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You through?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First and foremost, before I start my comments, I would like to commend our staff, all the staff, including Sarah, on a job well done for taking all this in a very compressed time frame and getting it together as best you could. We asked a lot. I know it was a lot. I said last time I felt like there was things that we as a body were putting out that weren't quite addressed or that weren't being put forth. I cannot say that this time. Job well done, and Kona, I hope you can hear me too. Job well done. Thank you, Kona. Okay. All right, thank you. So, a couple of things. The manager brought up a statement earlier that I am absolutely interested in. Anything that is small and ancillary that really should not be in the purview of us, and I want to define when this organization was reconstituted and was redone, there was a reason why. First and foremost, what got all this started was the county commission saying to the city, why are we paying, we're going to continue to pay money into areas where there's not economic blight and urban decay. Meaning what they were talking about was College Park and University Heights. When you see all the development, whether it be around the former AGH site, which we now call Innovation Square, or the Innovation District, we see all of that innovation, we see all of that development, all of that fervor, all of that energy that went into that development. That was what kicked off this conversation. And the conversation was, okay, well, and I think Sarah can attest to this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we cannot continue with the model that we had. We could not transfer dollars or take those dollars and those monies from one area to say, well, we need to invest them in other areas, right? That was what the catalyst of this discussion was. The city said, okay, well, we need to go back to take our tools, go back to the drawing board, and we came up with this. We're not 4 districts, we're 1 district. So we're one body, and that's all of us here. And so in that spirit, right, we said, okay, well, let's keep that in mind of where urban decay, economic development needs to happen, urban blight. I don't see that on 13th. The colleague pointed that out. I think he said very nicely that the university's not partnering with that, and they have an interest too, right? And there's other areas we could talk about that. But if we go on it, and sure there might be some pockets here and there, but overall, Midtown, we're not seeing that urban decay. We're just not. We go to downtown in the urban core, you can ask some of the people that live down there, we see lots of it. We see lots of it. And I think my consistent statement to all of us here is looking at what our mission is, what we're supposed to address. And so when I'm looking at policing, that's not part of what we do. I want to leave that to the general fund. I'm happy to propose sending that back to the manager. Mr. Manager, among other projects that are in here that I really feel we could send back. Because if we go through this document, and I'm going to go through it quickly, and I don't want, because I'm not going to monopolize time, Mr. Chair, but I'm really less interested whether it be Midtown policing or areas of opportunity that are not in our purview that could be sent, or building public-private partnerships to do these things. If those missions can be addressed by general government, can be addressed by building public partnerships, even when it comes down to landscaping, let's take all of our resources that we need to use, because we have a big mission, we have a big lift to do. And every little thing, whether it might sound small, whether pruning the trees and building the shrubs, I mean, it sounds great. General government could do that. And policing, general government could do that. That's a conversation for Tony Jones. It's not a conversation for us. And so all of these small projects all add up to a cost, including things like, the residential paint program. I brought that to our attention last night. The reason why my appetite for that is really not there, and it sounds good for my friends and neighbors that live in our area, because some of them have benefited from it. But that's why we've had the rate of return of minus 3.3 on our return on investment. And it's not the amount of dollars, because I think, Sarah, and I'm only going to give a broad scope. And if it's a number staff, I'm sorry if I butcher the numbers, it's not intentional. I'm just generalizing. Let's say it was 51% of the budget we're dropping in for a particular area. And I think in that pie chart was, let's just say it was East Side, East Gainesville. It was 51%. Whatever that number was, 30 million, 30, it doesn't matter. It's not the number or the amount of dollars that matter. Because if we take $38 million and we continue the same behaviors, the same projects, we're going to get the same result of negative 3.3% return. But if we change our thought and we take the same level of energy and innovation and fervor that was used to develop areas like College Park and University Heights, we will not get that same level of return. Because now we're using our best foot forward, we're using our mission, and that's why things like whether it be the residential improvement program or any of these small things, I want to develop partnerships. If it's going to develop our downtown, have stronger investment in our urban core and areas where there's urban blight and decay, I would hope that you all are, can understand where I'm coming from, and we can have consensus in that area, because I don't see urban decay and blight in University Heights and College Park, and I think there's a lot of things in here that could be left out that are not in our mission of what we're doing. And with that, I'm finished.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I too like to thank staff for a job well done in a short period of time. My only concern is, I know you included Spring Hill, but you didn't define what you plan to do in Spring Hill. So perhaps we need to have a neighborhood meeting to see what the people in the area between 4th and the Cotton Club, there's a little park there in that area. Barbara Higgins Park, no, Barbara Higgins is not over there, it's another little complex. But I think we could do something in there. There is a little park on the east side of 7th Avenue. I don't know, we have to put some benches and stuff out there. And the water in that particular pond has got all the algae in the world is not well kept at all. So perhaps we need to have a community, our neighborhood meeting about what we would like to see. The lighting is very, very poor. That bridge is beautiful. People are there all the time. But from what I can understand, the water is contaminated. And the children, not from our neighborhood, but other neighborhoods, they come there and wade in the water that's contaminated. So I would like to see those things worked out. Add some streetscape.
One thing I would recommend, Ms. Evelyn, is let us get with our partners within the city to figure out what initiatives are already underway and what kind of work is being done, so that when there is a community meeting, we'll have all of our partners throughout the city there to address the concerns, but also let the community know what is happening.
Very good. Thank you. That would be great.
We can coordinate on that.
Okay, and I do have to leave. Mr. Chair, my son just flew in from Maryland, and I need to spend some time with him before he leaves.
You do that.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
I'd like to say thank you. I feel like all of my points are mostly hit. The one, I'd like the property acquisitions. If there's anything, we can get a list of those, just so we can start, like, kind of looking at, maybe we should drop one or sell to a private interest, or, like I think you said Seminary Lane was the one behind El Indio.
Yes.
That's been, I don't know, that's been doing anything. Maybe like a private business would do something more and get reloaded. Things like that. Any other?
So we can talk further about, we don't have a list for acquisitions, so.
Or
this
like
is
the
just-
ones that we already have that we're
Oh, okay, gotcha.
moving on.
Gotcha, yes.
Something to
We'll
make
come
some
back.
decisions.
I thought you were asking about if we had an actual list of
Oh,
properties that we were
no.
pursuing. I
Just the ones we
misunderstood.
already have.
Yes, yes, we will do that, and we'll have to kind of figure out the best time to bring that back to the board.
All right, thank you.
Member Merritt?
I thank you all for the great presentation in such a short period of time. And I think all my points have been addressed. I would just re-emphasize what Member Gomez has stated in regards to minimizing the use of the CRA funds for the smaller projects, the use on future projects.
Could you repeat what you left then? Sorry, just your last sentence. I think the air came on at the same time you were speaking. Oh, that's the projector.
Yeah, to utilize the budget more on bigger projects and minimize that the smaller projects such as the housing program.
That it?
Okay, thank you.
All right. So I guess I may be, unfortunately, maybe a little bit more critical. I think we did a very, very good job of hitting a lot of the feedback that came back. But I'd say my biggest point of concern is I think the comments about the pie chart were misinterpreted. When we remove the pie chart and remove that potential budget and remove impacts on these budgets, I think it, to me, says we have just a bunch of ideas up against the wall and not really a way to move forward with it. I definitely want to, double check, or not double check, but at least back up Member Dixon's comments about the metrics. I think having those those metrics in place is really one of the most important parts, and that's what I'm kind of concerned I don't see. And I kind of don't see how some of these things will affect budgets. It's, to follow up on Mondo's points is, some of these programs are kind of small, some of these, and, I don't know how they affect things on a larger scale. Or whether they're just like 1-2% of the budget, or whether they're something that we need to really pay attention to. Because if we really do want to try and pull off something like, getting some sort of point moving forward with the 8 in Waldo, we need to know how much kind of a runway we have. I mean, I think that's a kind of a standard business thing. That's probably my biggest point. I have a couple small kind of questions. I guess with GTech, when it comes to GTech, I have a little confusion there with if we're putting CRA in a tech incubator, doesn't that prevent tech companies from going in there? Because I mean, there's a limited amount of space that, there's only a limited amount of space. And I know that's something that can't be changed immediately, but if we do want to have another tech company, more tech companies come in, that's space that kind of can't be rented to them. I'm still very concerned about Lynch Park. And maybe some clarity on that, Mr. Manager. That was something that, it affects me on a daily basis there. I've even had a out-of-town property owner that has property very, very close to that is somebody that, could be a potential partner for the city. But when he came to see this, there was literally, and we're talking 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there was a literal drug deal happening out the window. And I mean, I just don't even know how to handle something like that, especially if, if the CRA, I guess if the CRA is not something,
Well, this Lynch Park is a problem. I mean, we've started addressing it through GPD and through Public Works. We've recognized the issue. It's not going to be solved overnight. There you may have noticed Public Works made some improvements on the property across the street where the mall, the shop is.
Okay, that was Public Works.
Yeah, so we made some improvements the other day. You can get a chance to drive by and see them yet, but the idea is to start addressing that area. So one of the biggest issues we do have over there is the homeless population. There's not a lot we can do. It's public space, they have a right to be there. They don't have the right to be dealing drugs, and that's where the law enforcement component will come in. So we recognize it's an issue on there, but it's not a burden of the CRA.
Okay. And from the CRA's perspective, I guess. Well, I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling on that. I don't really.
Well, I mean, there may be a role for the CRA in the future at Lynch Park. So, when we take a look at it and we determine that there may be some physical improvements that need to be made to the park, and we're looking for funding for that, we may come back to the CRA and say, we need to make these enhancements. Maybe it's more lighting, maybe it's fencing, decorative fencing. I'm not sure what it would be yet. So we may come back to the CRA and ask for that. I think there's sufficient funds in the old money to take that from, if we do need to, take it from a project in the old money and reprogram it.
Okay. And I guess, and one last thing for the Power District, when you're going out for that RFQ for the Power District, I'd really like to encourage you to look at companies like Cushman, Wakefield, Lexus, Colliers, some of the companies that really don't have a strong presence in Gainesville. There seems to be a kind of a history of companies that CRA has consistently worked with and personally.
Yeah. So it's my intention to get one nationally recognized commercial real estate broker for the entire city. On there, I've done that in the past. It's a national network, and so sometimes the local realtors are very good at dealing with the regional on there, but sometimes when you have a project of, let's say, the power district size or something that may be unique, you need to have a network that is tied in nationally or internationally in order to bring it to market. And so my experience has been you get that with those national firms that you've named, and CBRE is another one, Colliers, those are two that I've used in the past that get you to that point.
Okay, yeah, I think that's really great to hear. I'm concerned with some of the kind of more popular, maybe one of the more popular local brokers and the way that they kind of operated. But sorry, I think that's everything for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a number of things I've scratched down. I'm not going to bore this group with it. I'm going to go through quickly a few things that I think is to put out there so we could at least heard about some things that we may want to incorporate later on. Well, let me speak on a tactical level first, instead of this broad strategic. I think it would be really worthwhile if, as the years progress, and hopefully the early years, that we do a really good inventory of the district, its streets, its street needs that could be improved, that really uplift the area. And I think particularly, I think it's easy to say this, and I think it's true, the eastern part of the district has been left behind, largely via infrastructure. And I think that's a huge factor in the future. So what I'm proposing to staff to think about, and maybe you could come back here and enter it into the budget somehow, but I think it'd be low budget in terms of the inventory. Have a inventory team, GCRA folks, Public Works folks in the city, GRU, I don't want anybody else I had on the list, planning department, a small contingent, get their cameras out, go through the important major sections of our district and note what's there, what isn't. And also, by the way, I forgot to say, local people that want to participate, they can go along in the group and say, look, we have all these things in this corridor that are deficient. Let's develop at least a long-range plan to deal with it instead of just letting it keep lingering and lingering and lingering. So that's a tactical suggestion I would like you to consider. Also, I would like to keep in mind that any kind of development that we can bring in largely has to be, if we want to get that critical mass of things happening, density. Okay, we need people. We've got the pressures going out to the west. We've had it for decades. You don't need any more of that. We need to develop our own pressure, density. And I think of areas like south of Depot Park. And as a matter of fact, as you go west across Main Street, that's kind of an underloved area. Batch plants and truss plants and whatever. And that's underutilized urban space. Just think of all the impact by developing that in a quality way, business and residential, dense residential, that could have then in terms of retail spin-off, all of that for the area. And look on the map where that is and how much impact that has, primarily on the east versus the western part of our district. So those things need to be looked at, and I'd like you to keep thinking about them every opportunity this board to think about them. Scribble stuff down here. I have a couple other. I will emphasize here, and I'm not going to go anymore with it. The core downtown Gainesville belongs to all of us. It really does. All of us own it. We relate to it, and we've got to really go some distance to get it past what I consider to be more or less the doldrums that it's in. One other thing that's not thought about much, and I think is problematic, The corridor of University Avenue from Waldo Road, Wilson Road, the intersection, the big intersection there, going east down to where Hawthorne Road splits off. Nothing's ever going to happen there anymore the way that's built out. It's all large, expansive concrete and asphalt. Nobody's really going to come in and invest in that. You may get a small retailer, but that really needs to be thought about. I don't have any specific recommendations because that's FDOT, and we know about FDOT. We've got to really cultivate a diplomatic relationship with them to get things to happen. But just think about it. Look at the map. Look where that is, and all the good things we'd like to do at that intersection, even going all the way up to 8th and Walnut. It impacts the whole sense of it. I think I'm going to stop here. Just one minor comment to make about the 13th Street. Yeah, I don't think GCRA has a big investment in the 13th Street corridor. It may have in some portions of it. But just for the record, there is a group of citizens that asked the MTPO to have a workshop on 13th Street because of all the activity going on there and danger and people getting killed and hurt. And the workshop was well attended. I think you were there, weren't you? We had about 40, 50 people? Yeah, something like that. And it was for the full expanse. It was not just that localized area. It went all the way from Williston Road all the way up to northwest 23rd Avenue. That whole thing was looked at. And the idea came up is that we need to get on everybody's mind. The idea of transforming that into a complete street modality in which all the kind of people that use that, whether it's motorists, pedestrians, bicyclists, people using the bus, and get the best minds we can in traffic planning and transportation planning to make it better. And that could be partnered with the city, the university, the MTPO, and FDOT. That's a big deal. So what I would ask the GCRA to do is not think that we're going to be pitching a lot of our budget in their direction, but at least smile and wave the flag and say this is a good idea. Because we do touch on a few parts of it there. So I'm going to stop at that point. Those are just a few of my comments, but I could go on, as you know.
Senator Evans?
Thank you, staff. I know that you weren't, anticipating me being here tonight with some other conflicts, but I kind of switched around a couple things to be here because this is a monumental step for us all, and I have just a couple comments on the community enhancement piece. And actually, before I say that, I did want to say congratulations to Kona for putting all this together in team, and thank you, staff, as well. So, with the residential paint program, and I mentioned this last time, to kind of look at expanding this. And so I did read that it goes into the one district program. So are we saying that the paint program is going to kind of go throughout Gainesville and not just in East Gainesville on that one?
So I believe that the residential paint program would be for the entire district. However, focusing on housing, that's a program that we'll need to bring back because it's been under revision. So at that time, we can kind of discuss the boundaries and maybe a tactical approach, because I'm not sure if it was open up to the entire district if we could handle that. Quite frankly, there's not unlimited funding, and so I think it would be good to find out, ways in which you feel it should be prioritized as a board. Perhaps we focus on certain areas over the years, and divide it that way. We've thought about it a bunch of different ways. We just haven't had an opportunity to come back and discuss those proposed revisions. So we hear your comments, and we are thinking about those things as well. So we'll look forward to having that conversation formally.
Awesome, thank you. And then I did see the additional bullet about investigating other residential improvement programs. So that was awesome to see. And I don't know if this one was addressed earlier, but with community partnership grants, it says that the GCRA can partner with other city departments to address other needs. And with the grant, would those be open to, those in the private sector or nonprofits specifically? What are we looking at with that one?
Yeah, so for instance, it was different when we were a statutory CRA. For instance, we would have Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs give a presentation on, I'm just trying to think of the name of their program. I'm sorry, it's late. But for the mural project, I think it's Urban Revitalization Project, they would come and make a pitch to say, hey, we have these artists interested in these properties, and we're asking the CRA to contribute X amount of dollars from their downtown. So they would come to our downtown board and request the funding, right? Now it's a little bit different because we are a city department, but the community partnership grants was really thought about because we get so many requests for funding to fund all these really great initiatives that are happening within the city, but there's no formal program around it, so it always felt awkward just to kind of have us add it to the agenda. We discussed that before, that perhaps, we bring the requests ahead of time, you all talk about when you'd like to hear it, and then we invite people back. But also, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think you were here when I kind of talked through this, but we're thinking about, should there be an application process, and should it be open once a year, quarterly? How would we like to handle this moving forward so that there's a clear administrative process around it, so that the community knows when to anticipate, a submittal, and how we would handle that as a board. Those are kind of the two things that we'd like to deal with. And then, of course, how do you set a budget on that? Because we know how important, it is to use this funding in the next decade, so we need to think about that as a group as well. And so what we propose is bringing back kind of the history of community partnership grants that we've actually paid out, over the last 5 or 10 years to kind of inform when that comes forward for discussion.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there, yes,
I have a question for staff. Just wanted to try to understand what this will look like going forward. As we've heard some members, support or not support certain initiatives that are in here. So I'm just wondering, as we're moving forward and we're setting budgets that go to these, is it okay, let's just suppose, if one of these initiatives we didn't budget anything for, maybe it's 13th Street or maybe it's something else, but is it okay to have it in here and then but not prioritize funding for it, and it's not right away, or maybe we get 5-6 years into it before we ever prioritize money into it?
So that's, to me, that's really next step. We started to kind of look at that with the spreadsheet that came out the last time, really looking at if we moved everything on the roadmap forward, how would we do that? And so I think you saw with a lot of the programs that there was kind of a dollar amount that we looked at, spreading across the entire decade. Some were a year or two out with significant investment coming in because we thought, it's going to take a year to get through some planning and design around this, to kind of get to that point. And so I think, with the feedback that we've received, we understand what the priorities are. There's some major areas of focus for us, and next step is to come back, with that budget piece. And so whether or not we do it in conjunction with getting the plan approved March 5th, I don't think that's realistic, but we'll be taking some kind of thinking forward on how we would do this, because the commission will want to know that.
So, Member Dixon, just to reiterate, there will be no obligation to fund any of these projects. So they're in the plan. They could have zero funding on it. You can come up with new projects and add it to the plan in the future.
Okay.
Shift money around, so.
That's good. That's exactly what I was wondering. What's that expectation? Great, thanks.
I was gonna wait till you said that, Mr. Chairman.
I was going to ask if there was going to be anybody from the public wanting to add specific comments that they haven't heard already. Please come up. Again, if you've already heard it mentioned, we don't need to repeat it, but if it's something that's new. I think that microphone will be fine.
Hi, Tana Silva. I'm glad to see that we're in good hands with the reinvestment plan with this board. Yeah, I do want to bring up Seminary Lane. That got just kind of dropped off of the CRA radar altogether abruptly. And with regard to this gentleman's questions about sending out for a real estate broker to handle the redevelopment of whatever it was. Seminary Lane was, as you all are probably familiar, it's about a 6-acre property in the Fifth Avenue neighborhood that was once subsidized housing. And promises have been made over since at least 2008, before it was demolished, about what that was going to become. And the CRA was an integral part of that. And in 2017, this was just like a week or two after the city approved a rezoning of up to 50 to 60 units per acre for the whole Fifth Avenue area. Then that went out to a brokerage firm, a local brokerage firm, to sell the Seminary Lane property. The CRA was a signatory to it, the city was a signatory to it, and this agency of the Gainesville Housing Authority was a signatory to it. And it was full of conditions that it was not going to be student housing or anything like that. And it was very specific as to how it was going to be redeveloped to the buyer. And that all just went away, mysteriously disappeared, and now we're stuck with the CRA, the city, and the Gainesville Housing Authority all saying, well, we don't have anything to do with it now, that's a separate board. So I would just ask that, that this advisory board, if you can, put Seminary Lane back. It hasn't sold yet. I understand all the arguments about, oh, we don't have anything to do with it, it's a hot potato. So there's that. Also, with regard to Depot area, and I appreciate Mr. Nielsen's comments about, getting an inventory team, and particularly looking at the whole of the Depot South Main area. I saw there's just a little circle on your map of some kind of reinvestment in the Depot Park and the RTS property and the Stringfellow property and so forth. But the first we heard of it was all of a sudden those two large properties were going to be rezoned to downtown, but there hasn't been any community conversation about all the way across South Main over to the Argos property and all of that. It's a huge area. It has infrastructure problems, it has environmental problems, there's brownfield. But all of a sudden, how we're going to have piecemeal development of these two large properties doesn't make sense. We need a plan, and the director of the cave actually said that she invited the community to come and start a conversation about redevelopment of that whole area as a whole. It's an important part of, the Depot Park belongs to all of us, and it's a huge success. And that needs to continue. It doesn't need to have just piecemeal rezoning to downtown for a couple of properties. So I would ask if you can incorporate that. Otherwise, I would just say I'm glad to see that there's going to be a little more emphasis on local small-scale businesses and less on attracting outside businesses. And I hope there's a lot of care with the opportunity zones, that they not be destructive to our local small-scale environments and neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public, again, that is not repeating what we've already heard, something specific and new?
I'm sorry to delay you further. I'm Sharon Bauer, president of Northeast Neighbors, and we're a approximately 50-year-old neighborhood association east of the Duck Pond neighborhood in the Northeast Historic District, an area the appraisers' records call east of Duck Pond or Duck Pond area. We are directly south of the MLK Center and Citizens Field. And when we first learned that the city was talking about replacing the MLK Center with a regional event center, and replacing Citizens Field with another stadium with 3 times the capacity, we were adamantly opposed, because both would send increased traffic down narrow winding 8th Avenue through the Northeast Historic District. Also, our neighborhood to the south, Carroll Estates to the north, and Fairfield Acres west of the soccer field there, all suffer from the noise currently at Citizens Field, and we believe strongly that those 2 new facilities proposed at that northwest corner would be more appropriately sited on the east side of Waldo Road in a less densely populated area where they would attract traffic to businesses in the east side, such as Southern Charm Kitchen and Chunky's. Second concern, by the way, the east side redevelopment area was originally only on the east side of Waldo Road, but it was extended to pick up the businesses on the west side of the Waldo Road corridor for the sole purpose of providing additional tax revenue. So the east side of our neighborhood has that little strip of the east side redevelopment area, and the southern 4 blocks are in the downtown redevelopment area. So our second concern has to do with the item in here that is mixed-use development at University and Waldo, because during the 2014 and 2017 Land Development Code updates, we successfully resisted efforts by staff to rezone that oldest part of our neighborhood to mixed use, because we don't want businesses next to 120-year-old houses. So I don't know why somebody is pushing this, but we are surrounded by thriving businesses on Waldo and University. All 3 UF Health East Gainesville clinics are on the west side of Waldo Road. The East Campus, the UF East Campus, is on the west side of Waldo Road. Now the new Wawa, the East Gainesville Wawa, is going to be in the downtown redevelopment area right across the university from me. We don't need redevelopment. Please leave us alone. Please focus your spending and your development area efforts in East Side. That's where the critical need is. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Okay, I'm going to thank you. Want to say one more, Mr. Chairman? Yes, sir. Yeah. Go.
Good evening, everyone. I just had a couple of questions. I just got here, and I just wanted to know, was there extensive conversation along the Hawthorne Road corridor, and how this board could play a role in redeveloping that? Was that a part of this discussion?
We talked about specific projects along the Hawthorne Road corridor, but are you talking about the street itself?
No, I'm just talking about the reinvestment, economic development along that corridor.
That's in the plan. We didn't speak about specific, this building, this lot, that type of development. We talked about.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't expect you to speak in that type of specificity. Basically, what I'm just getting at is the opportunity for that particular corridor to be developed, and the role that this board could play in facilitating that. You've spoken about Power District, you've spoken about downtown, and you've spoken about 8th and Waldo. But the Hawthorne Road corridor also is a very important area to consider as you are looking at projects to invest these dollars in. For instance, we have an ongoing program with Cornerstone, formerly known as G-Tech, as well. Shands even has that acreage where Crevasse Florist was located, and it's a possibility partnerships could be done with you all through that. And my other point is because we have Hardwood coming on board, which is going to be a 33 residential development, since you're talking about density, that is going to add density to that area, which would facilitate some economic development action happening to provide services not only for the 33 families, but when you look at Lincoln Estates, when you look at the neighborhood located west of Lincoln Estate, and when you look at the other communities located there, you would have improved on the density, which would then facilitate the consideration of looking at what economic development options that you would have to serve that community, and that's what I'm getting at. So I would recommend that you do add that to your plan and give that some serious consideration as well.
So I'm looking at the reinvestment opportunity sites that's in the document that was in the plan. It clearly runs the distance of Waldo Road. So it's in the...
You're speaking Waldo Road, I'm speaking the Hawthorne Road.
I'm sorry, and the Hawthorne Road, I can't, my glasses don't...
No, like I say, all of them just making a suggestion that time be devoted to developing some type of action to take advantage of those opportunities, because I've heard Power District, I've heard South Main, I've heard downtown, I've heard 8th and Waldo, but I have not heard significant conversation about the opportunities that exist along East University and Hawthorne Road. And that is a critical area for Eastside. I don't want this board to just get locked in on 8th and Waldo, because there's more opportunity than 8th and Waldo. And that's my point. Okay? Thank you.
Anything new to add?
Well, as long as additional areas, what's my name? My name is Marty Mesh. Another neglected area of mention that I just wanted to remind the board of is in the southeast section, you know, there's a chance to do, and we've tried to generate a way to gather some community directions, community input, but you know, 107-acre parcel that we believe is prime possibility to create agricultural-based enterprises and maybe even some more production. Seems like the University of Florida did input on the east side and came away with desire of the community to have better access to healthier foods. And here's a parcel of land that we believe is well suited and has 2 adjacent farms already. And so I just wanted to, you know, I didn't hear any mention of the comment before was on Hawthorne Road, but I'm talking about Southeast 15th Street, the parcel down there. So,
okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Something specific? All right, pull it back here. I'd again like to thank staff and Conan's group for all that they've done to pull this together. I feel like that from the conversations I've heard this evening that the document we had before with this as an addendum really sets forth a strong framework for how we can move this together. And I think we've heard it explained a couple times. There is flexibility in this, both in funding and in projects that some that may over the years take on less importance, and others that may come in new and pick up additional priority. And I think this sets a strong roadmap going forward. I guess I'd ask the city manager if you had any comments or observations that you'd like to add.
Well, first let me also commend our staff for hearing what you said at the last meeting, hearing what our neighbors said at the engagement session the following day, and making the adaptations. Assuming you all approved the plan, this was the easy part. The hard part will be, now starting to put the dollars to the projects, and that's something I think you need to put on the radar sooner than later, because 10 years is not a long time, and there's a expectation from our neighbors, from the county, that we're going to start work pretty soon on these projects. The other aspect of that, again, is going to be, how do we go big and go fast on a couple of projects that are going to be transformational? Because if you try to fund everything evenly over a 10-year period, you're not going to get anything done, and you're not going to get a return on investment. So as you're talking about the budget, you're going to have to give some serious consideration to, recommending that we issue some sort of financing so that we can use the revenues from the future now to make those impacts. But I think this is a good plan. It's a good framework for moving forward. I feel confident that we have a product that will be well received by the Commission, and hopefully we can get something adopted on March 5th and have our public unveiling of it on St. Patty's Day, March 17th.
Awesome. Thank you. Is there, who had their hand up first?
I am on it earlier.
Garrett.
Mr. Chair, a couple of things I want to address of what I heard, and I think I want to take a crack at something after some comments, but I have a crack at something that I think encompasses a lot of what I've heard. I talked a lot earlier about why the board was reorganized, how we got to here. And the manager just made a great statement a second ago about having something transformational. The thing I remember Nielsen talking about these arbitrary lines last time and revisiting his comments, but we heard something here that always gives me pause. It's kind of like, Mr. Manager, you actually just heard it. And you're new here, you've been here 100 days and you heard something. And I want this board to really listen to what we just heard from the public. And that is this, is every time that something is meant to happen, or we try to do something transformational for an area that has it looks like World War II. If you were back in World War II and alive, you were back then, it still looks the same. Waldo Road has looked the same for 40, 50 years. One of the members of the public, Mr. Henry, just brought up about Hawthorne Road. Every time we try to do something transformational, you always get the, yeah, but not now, or not here. It's always the NIMBY mindset, all the time. And sometimes you begin to wonder, you begin to say, is there something else going on here? Because every time, well, businesses are thriving. I hate to tell you, anybody here, basic economics, the university is not a business. A clinic is not a business. I could be wrong. We got 51% plus off the tax rolls in our city. And we have an area that is constantly needing development. I always say to people, sprawl would be an improvement for residents of East Gainesville. Some people want to say, well, no, that's the east side, whatever you want to call it. I lived there, my neighbors call it East Gainesville, east side, whatever. Everybody knows what we're talking about. Waldo Road, Hawthorne Road. I don't want to play semantics here or mix words. What I do want to say is this. This is what we're battling here, is this mindset of, yeah, but not here. Everybody likes to do great important things that's important to them, whether it be food, taking care of the homeless, and you know where they drop it off at? Over in the area where my friends and neighbors live. Care about the homeless, we go do it here. Let's go try to do that over by Celebration Point. That is not going to happen. You want to go drop it off all your community ills and concerns? I care about the environment, just not next to my house. I don't care about the homeless, just not, we'll put it over by where people we don't care about too much. And then when we want to develop it, and the proof is in the pudding, folks. The proof is in the pudding. Every time, look at when we had a CRA district. You look at University Heights, we had residential development. You have people talking about in this community all the time about affordable housing, workforce housing, the need for more housing, the need for affordable apartments. But we always get the other innovation to Mr. Palmer, to your credit, where we get close, Power District. We get close to East Gainesville or East Side, but we don't go there. So here's what I hear, Mr. Chair. I move we add the following areas to the GRA Reinvestment 10-year plan. The areas are downtown and urban core, and East Gainesville and East Side, and I'm being inclusive of that I move that we eliminate small programs, such as the paint programs and smaller projects, that will allow for the development of 8th and Waldo Hawthorne Road in any areas, and I'm going to define what that means, by the way, in our downtown and urban core. I would also like to return the Midtown policing back to general government. I also would like to define what downtown and urban core means. Southeast 4th Avenue and to Northeast 8th Avenue, East and West Northeast 3rd, and Southeast 3rd Street to Southwest 3rd and Northwest 3rd Street. And when I say East Gainesville, I mean Waldo Road, Southeast 11th and Williston Road, because they get divided up. There's not a continuity there of everything east. So if that makes sense to people, if you want any clarity on that, I've kind of put a lot out there, but I move that.
I'll second that. I think I should say second about 5 times on that.
Did I? Okay.
Is anybody, was staff able to get any,
I can repeat that out, Mr. Chair.
well, we may need to.
Do you have that written down?
I do.
In front of you? That would be very helpful.
I did, here. And I added Waldo Hawthorne Road corridor to it. So just add Hawthorne Road to this.
So, trying to restate, so you're saying approval of the plan and
Approval of the plan to
and the
include-
appendix, and with those, as amended and described in your document, we're still rereading here.
Amended in that project, but specific, those specific projects to be curtailed. And actually, Tricia, just to clarify, if you're okay with it, I want to clarify. Downtown urban core? I'm sorry.
I'm going to ask you.
So yes, approving the draft plan appendix with those specific projects in mind.
I'm going to ask staff to kind of read it back so that we all understand.
I was also asked by member Mitchell, who couldn't be here, to read some comments tonight. So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no,
Okay.
so should I do that now, or should I read them?
Are these the ones that everybody has?
Can we clarify the motion first?
Okay.
After that.
So, Member Grundy Gomez moved to add the following areas into the GCRE reinvestment 10-year plan. Those areas are our downtown urban core and East Gainesville east side. He moved to eliminate small programs such as paint programs and smaller projects that will allow for development for 8th and Mulder Road and our downtown urban core. He would also like to return Midtown policing back to general government. So, and he specified downtown, north-south, southeast 4th to northeast 8th Ave. So this is southeast 4th Ave to northeast 8th Ave?
Forgive me, I'm going to the map.
Okay.
I'm not GIS yet in my head.
And the east-west would be northeast,
Yeah, so we southwest 4th Avenue.
northeast, southeast 3rd Street to southwest, northwest 2nd Street. And then East Gainesville would be Waldo Road, southeast 11th, Williston Road, east. So east of Waldo Road, Williston Road, and southeast 11th.
Which would be Waldo, southeast 11th.
Just got a motion and a second. Does everybody understand it?
I don't. So, Tricia, could you just read that very first part so I can make sure I understand it?
So to move the following areas into the GCRA reinvestment 10-year plan.
Okay, I guess that's, aren't they in there?
They're already in there.
Right.
But I'm naming those as specific projects that I would like to see developed.
Okay. So,
So maybe it's not the areas, you're saying to make specific projects.
Correct.
In those areas.
I'm sorry.
Projects in the
I
following
felt like
areas.
you could wordsmith it, but yes.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, sir, Mr. Manager. I guess we could do the wordsmith, but yes. That is exactly what I am used to.
And can you repeat, it was eliminate small projects such as a paint project and what else?
And smaller projects that would allow for development of 8th and Mulder Road.
At this
No,
point,
just paint program was specifically
I just gave
listed.
that as an example. I couldn't. You want me to go through the laundry list of what was added or small?
not in the motion.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess I'm just trying to understand, so I'm thinking about it. In this framework. So staff goes back, they would X out the paint program.
Paint
they would X
program,
out
the
the
community
policing
policing, some of the food programs, whatever could be.
food program.
So I guess for
I
staff.
think we need to be specific.
Yeah,
so
for
we know.
staff, anything that could be returned back to the general government or could be created with partnerships outside, those are what I'm defining in your plan as smaller programs. So Midtown Policing would be one example, your community for mobility hub, your community enhancement residential improvement program. That could be given back to general government.
And what would you want to see them put, so if they created a heading that was downtown core and they created a heading that was east side projects, what would you be looking for them to say underneath those headings?
The 8th and Waldo project, as well as the Hawthorne Road corridor as right for development. And
Nathan Waldo is in here.
yes, it is, but I mean, that is a specific project that I'm focused on, not just, I already know it's in there,
Yeah.
but I'm naming it specifically to be focused on and not just, right now, we're all over that with dot, and I'm naming specific ones.
I think we still have confusion over the motion.
Are we at a point where we can comment on it? Opinions, or is that a...
Yeah, we might as well comment on it and find out what people understand what it is.
I think for me, I respect the spirit of the motion and I understand the nature of it. I think if we're talking about removing the paint and smaller programs in there, I think that's a very good way that the CRA, that I know, as far as I understand, has worked very hard to redevelop those programs, and we haven't given them a chance to see if they're working. I think some of the other smaller projects, as we kind of mentioned before, are things that when it comes time to develop the budget, we can determine and we can make those decisions as a board whether or not we're funding them. So in principle, as far as if that is part of the motion, I think that's something I personally couldn't support, only because I wouldn't want to see those taken away. I think some of the paint programs are very valuable for some members of community, especially business paint programs.
The paint program was used specifically in the east side area primarily, and I can speak to that because we saw the rate of return. What we are looking at as our mission and what it has done, while it might be laudable and laudable, there's a department, we have housing, that can actually do that program. And so for getting to help eliminate economic blight and urban decay, we use those very low dollars to do something else. Are we eliminating urban decay? Well, just like with Midtown Policing, it's laudable, it's a goal. But I'm looking at what our mission is and how it's lined up. And what is the rate of return on dollars? It was nominal at best. Actually, it was negative 0.3, 0.9%. I think that's what
I'd like to point out that what we heard is that we have, in this framework, we have the flexibility to not fund some of these and add other priorities and add additional projects as they come up in the future. And so perhaps we don't need to take anything off the table at this point in this plan. We might want to focus on things that we felt were left off. If the Hawthorne Road corridor is important, then we might want to call it out as saying, we want staff to place that on here as a placeholder for us to look at as we move forward, instead of trying to create a list of things that we might want to take out right now. Well,
the manager just made a good point. We're at a point of choosing whether to accomplish significant transformative things in an impressive time scale, not over years and years, but in a couple of years, or keep doing 24 things constantly and just tweeling along. So that's why I think there's great sense to cutting back some things that are purely, almost purely symbolic and little return, and focus on larger things. And while I'm speaking now, Manager Feldman, you made a comment about creating revenue or getting revenue. Were you making a reference to asking the city to issue bonds?
I was making a reference that if you intend to do some of these large projects, you're going to need to issue debt. This so the city would actually be the entity, the revenues pledged would be the city contribution, and the county contribution is being made over the 10-year period. So it wouldn't be like general obligation debt, it would be it could be a revenue anticipation note, it could be a bank loan, but it would be secured by the two revenue streams, city and county.
I appreciate the spirit of the motion, but I'm going to go back to the same thing I keep talking about, which is the evaluation criteria. I think that if we had good evaluation criteria in here that spoke to, we want to emphasize projects that are transformational, that have a return on investment, that do things that others won't do, I think we will get to where you want to get to.
Actually, let me, Mr. Manager, with the spirit of that, something, I'm just going to be very frank. Something transformational. There's a lot of people that want to see something. We could drag this out for 10 years. People want to see something start now. So while Mr. Henry talked about 8th and Waldo, the Hawthorne Road project, there's a lot of talk in this community about doing something great and transformational that will transmogrify the 8th and Waldo Road corridor, period. And in that spirit, that's exactly what I'm focused on. And if that means, because, for example, I think that in the last pie chart we saw it was X amount of dollars. Again, I'm going to say just 38 because that might not be the number. Don't catch me with the number, but it was $38 million. I'm saying, hey, you know what? I want to take those dollars and let's do something big and let's get it done. Rather than drag this out. So the spirit of my motion, there's meat and potatoes of what I'm saying. I don't want to drag this out. I want to just get something done. And that's exactly what I'm saying. It's a shotgun approach. I'm happy and amenable to modify or open to your points of view.
So, would you modify to add approve adding
Absolutely.
The Hawthorne Road corridor?
Absolutely. If the seconder agrees.
Yes.
I may have a point of kind of confusion on this one, or something that's kind of a conflict of interest. I may have to recuse myself from, and I may, for Armando's motion, I've actually last year approached the CRA about a potential paint program thing for both the business that I have and my personal residence, and I think that might be a conflict of interest if I'm voting for that on this board or against that board. For the sake of transparency, I'm just putting that out there. I don't know if I need to recuse myself from that.
I think this is part of a bigger plan.
Okay.
Lots of yes, Ms. Bush.
I'll ask Member Randy Gomes if you might be amenable to a motion that just makes it a little cleaner, because I think one thing that the staff needs to do is they need, we've gotten one look at it, we've gotten a second look at it, and I think that we need to have some, yeah, that's okay. No, I'm just thinking about how to move us forward, and I think that we're definitely going to Hawthorne Road, for instance. If we want to say, let's add Hawthorne Road, I think just making that, call that particular piece out, but also let kind of the plan and the roadmap go through the next steps, because we will be on this board and we will bring you back ideas and projects and funding requests. So this isn't our last cut at it. So that would be my recommendation.
The answer for me is yes, but I do want to remind you that the manager, what they're bringing, when they take this draft, it's going to the city commission. And I think that in the spirit of what the manager's talking about, if we're able to bring something with teeth, let's do that. Absolutely yes to everything you just said, as long as my secretary is following too. But yes, we can always clean it up. I don't want there to be any ambiguity. I want to be very transparent and want to make it very clean. And I tried to do that the best I could. I think I put too much in thinking I should have broke it up, so I won't do that again. But that was the spirit of what I was getting at. If I have confused you, please let me know. I think I have.
So you just need pictures of all those.
Member Nelson had a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Manager, we use the word transformational. I like that word because I think there are projects and circumstances that can really make a difference. And sometimes we don't see what's transformational until we have good advantage of hindsight. We have an opportunity at this time, within the next 10 years, to invest in our district. And what I'm concerned with is I want to do the right thing, the best combination of choices that get us where we want to go. And I heard you say you're interested in kind of upfront transformational investments, if I was correct. How can you offer some sort of criteria so that we feel comfortable that that investment is going to be really a sound investment? Given that there's a certain, I don't want to say haste, that's not the word I want to use, a little less deliberate sounding tone to it. Like, we got to get this done, we got to get this done. I understand that patience, but what I want to get done is a real transformation. And I'm not sure if one or two projects make the difference or a full court press makes a difference. Can you answer some of that for me?
Sure. I think it's 2 or 3 relatively large projects that will transform this large CRA district. And, recognizing I'm the new kid on the block, right? On there, to me, what I've heard out there in the community is that there really, on this list, 2 transformational opportunities. 8th and Waldo, the Waldo Street corridor being one, and the second being the Power District. What my recommendation would be at this point, hearing the discussion, is if I was able to make a motion, hearing everything here, it would be to create a new project for Hawthorne Road, because as you yourself said, that's going to be a lift with FDOT, but we might be able to do something.
You're speaking of the stretch from the intersection of Waldo University down to where Hawthorne forks off.
Correct.
Okay. Good.
I think, adding that project, deleting the Midtown policing project, and then coming back, starting at your next meeting, starting to put the numbers to the projects, so that we have some sense as to where we're going, recognizing that you can put 0 funding in on projects. So if there's a desire to not do, as Mr. Grundy Gomez says, that then you put 0 funding in on those items. So I think that's a debate you all can have at a later date, but you can get a plan that starts giving you the framework to move forward tonight.
Okay, I want to try and clear up where we are, because right now we have a revised motion to approve the plan and the addendum with Hawthorne Road corridor project added, and a second. Now we can retract that and start over?
I want to just have a couple questions for a couple people, and I'm sorry, because I want to be collegial in the spirit of working with everybody. Kali, where is your desire to go with this? Like, on this, do you want to stay forward? I'm happy to be inclusive of things.
Yeah, I'm willing.
Okay. I just want to be very clear to everybody, because Mr. Nielsen and I go back. We know. And I hear the conversation I was just sharing with Member Dixon, that we always hear that we always want to do something. But my experience is when I hear that, we always have the desire to do something, and the rhetoric never matches the action. And so we really, when I hear transformation, yeah, but our community seems to be, when it comes to the eastern part of our city, gets left with the bag. So when I am going to be inclusive and say, you know what, all right, I'll trust you all. I want to back off this for right now. And so I'll retract it and just say, I want to modify my motion, Mr. Chair, to just approve the plan draft with the projects in there. But I would like to take some things out of the plan draft that I don't think need to be going forward. And I would like to keep the modified draft is approve the plan draft with all the appendix and the booklet, but I would like to remove Midtown policing out of that backup for that to be removed. And sorry, where's my document? I'm making it very easy and clean.
So far it's easy.
Yep. I want to remove the Midtown policing, the paint program, East Side Food Mobility Hub and Residential Improvement Program. That will be my motion.
Will you say those last two again?
The paint program, the Midtown Policing, and the Food Mobility Program and the Residential Improvement Program.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
We also want to add the Hawthorne Road corridor.
Oh, yes.
And a seconder? You agree with that?
And one other, would you add something to the effect of providing us with some evaluation criteria,
And for framework, yes.
decision framework?
And the decision framework, yes.
Okay. Agree with that
Yes.
as well?
And one more thing, I would like to include also removing business development out of the criteria process. I want to remove business development. Recruiting business or business development, I want to remove that as part of it, because that was part of the plan draft that Member Bush brought up last time in the presentation. There was some
I
dollars set aside.
don't understand that, because we haven't even developed the criteria yet.
Yeah.
Ma'am, go ahead.
So, just to be clear, you didn't mention residential improvement program, community enhancements as a part of that, right?
Did.
Yes.
Did.
Okay.
Personally,
Wrong
I think
thing. Community partnership grants and community enhancement. Did you mention that one as well? As far as like next year?
I mentioned again, Member Turner Evans, I mentioned the Midtown Policing, I mentioned the food mobility, the residential improvement program, which was under community enhancement, and Midtown Policing, what I mentioned, as well as the paint program.
So as far as investigating other residential improvement programs, if that can be added underneath the community partnership grant, I think I'm okay with removing the paint program as well. I do think that it is a benefit, but if we're moving for something that's going to be huge and monumental, we still do need things like residential improvement programs going forward.
I guess I would like to point out that we have the opportunity to manage this further without funding them.
I'm not funding, I'm just saying I would like to move out of it.
I understand. Instead of taking them out of the roadmap going forward now, we have the opportunity to not fund it, to fund it at
Fair
zero.
enough.
And that way it makes our motion and our what we're moving forward cleaner. And then when we meet to go over how we're going to distribute the
So
funds,
how about
they get zero funds.
How about I just remove all of the projects and say, I move to, if the secretary will agree, to move this project forward as what's in here to the city commission as a plain draft to include the appendix that we have tonight. That's my motion.
including Member Dixon's points.
Member Dixon's points.
That's my biggest concern.
Yes, including member, well, and adding Hawthorne Road. Adding Hawthorne Road and Member Dixon's points.
Second. Oh, sorry.
That's good. Second.
I thought, or do you have to, since you already seconded?
No, he's seconding this.
He's
He's
seconding.
supposed to-
He's
He's the second.
He has to decide.
Okay, I'm sorry, I lost track of
So I want to make sure we've got this clear. Plan and amendments are,
Member Dixon's points.
so
Evaluation
I
criteria.
don't want to say member Dixon's points. I want to
Evaluation criteria and
Evaluation
decision
criteria.
framework.
And Hawthorne Road.
and Hawthorne Road.
Yes.
Okay, and we've got a motion and a second discussion.
I want to talk about why we think CRA has to have a hand in doing everything. As far as business recruitment, economic development, you've got the Chamber of Commerce, Career Source, other agencies. As far as home improvements, you've got city housing, county growth management, and other agencies like NHDC and Habitat. So CRA doesn't have to have a hand in everything if there are other people doing, other agencies, entities, departments doing an adequate lift. What we as GCRA need to think about is is GCRA going to be the agent, not the agent, one of the agents to change Gainesville from being two cities separate and unequal? And where can we make the most impact?
Good. Ms. Dixon?
I would suggest, I think we might have consensus around also removing the midtown policing, and that could be added to the motion.
We could just do that later. We said we could zero out
I
later.
mean, again, you just funded at zero, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but even that one, I don't, it doesn't matter. I mean, I thought I heard a lot of consensus that nobody's really interested in that, and the manager said it could go.
In fact, the plan says we recommend not to do it.
Yeah.
It's already in
That's why-
here.
no, that's why-
It's already in here.
Making it
The
clean
bottom line
spot.
says we recommend not to do it.
Oh, okay.
The commission is going to get the final, we're recommending, right?
Okay, that's fine, then leave it.
All of those that he listed are recommended that we not do those in here.
Okay, yeah.
Can I point out one?
Yes.
Very good.
Some of us have been on lots of boards and some haven't. But one of the purpose of boards is for people who want to get reelected to have a group of people that take the heat and say things that would crush reelection. And they can do it without and let us take the heat. So take the heat.
Who are you taking the heat for?
Yeah,
Well, some things we might recommend and think about that people who want to get voted for will say, oh, I can't talk about that.
So we've got a motion on this and a second on the floor.
I think to Member Blount's point about things that we could fund, and I saw some hesitation in Member Evans's, some of her comments, so I wanted to address them and I want to rank them. Some of the programs like for neighborhood and main programs, we got the Department of Housing that can do a lot of these programs. You got neighborhood development block grants. So there's a lot of things that still can be done. Which we'll come to that discussion later, but those things that can go to general government, we have enough on our plate. Let's let some of those things go, but that's another concept matter for that.
Okay. Motion and a second on the floor. You want to read the motion? Make sure we're clear?
Which one?
We have
The
a
last one.
motion.
Minutes to write.
We have a motion to approve plan draft with the extra materials, the appendices, to add the Hawthorne Road corridor and to add evaluation criteria
Okay.
and decision framework.
So, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Our motion carries. Congratulations, people.
I want to make, Mr. Chair, I also want to move, per our colleagues, I think it's important for our board, what we do as a function, that we be more open and access to members that can't necessarily make it. I would also like to move that we have these broadcasts on Channel 12 so people can watch these back. I would really think that we should have these televised, and I think it's extremely important. Tricia says.
So I have heard from the clerk's office that the city commission is encouraging boards to use the newly renovated Roberta Klein room in the basement of City Hall. So it is an option for me to see if that's available, if you all would be up for a change of venue. We're okay to stay here too. It's really what.
Does it require a motion to ask, for the board to ask if we could go to a venue that has the ability to record?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this room
Do you
has.
need a motion from us to do that?
Oh.
Or we can just request you to do that?
You can talk about it if you
I mean,
would like to.
what we just heard was that this board would like to go to a venue that has the ability to record and or broadcast.
This room can do both.
This room can record, but it doesn't record the screen. The camera's up in the corner, and the audio has been broken the last two meetings.
The concern that I'm hearing from the public a lot is that they'd like to hear, but they don't see it. And I think it's
That's fair.
But so I can check with broadcast services to see if they have the capacity, because they may not have the capacity to actually broadcast live. But we could record video, and they do have a contract with a company who's writing the closed captioning. So the transcripts will be available for our meetings.
Does the renovated room have that? All that ability?
It has the capacity for video as well.
Okay, I
as
move that we go to,
audio.
I move that we consider as an option, if it's doable, to go to the newly renovated room in the basement.
Yeah,
we'll have to solve.
You will also need to make sure you all fit around the table
Right.
because you are a large group.
It's a
and-
long room, a longer table.
It's rented.
As long as the CRA will pay for it. No, just.
New City Hall.
We'll carry these tables.
All right, so staff will look at the opportunity of moving us to another room.
We
Okay.
can pay for a pro rata share.
We're going to log that under board member comment.
Yes.
Is there other board member comment?
This is not about CRA business. This is general comment.
Well,
I want to
general
invite you all. My organization, the Black Hats Collective, is offering a free public workshop led by some financial experts. We're calling it Increasing and Protecting Your Income and Your Wealth, and why that's two different things. It's this Saturday, the 29th at 2:15 at the Friendship Library on Northeast 16th Avenue. There'll be light refreshments afterward. And there are contacts on here if you want more information. I have these little handouts if anybody wants to have it on paper.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other member comment?
I got a real quick one. I didn't bring it up before. As some of you know, I spent 35 years at Santa Fe College, and my point is about Santa Fe, but I promise you I have no linkage to this. I've been out 10 years, I don't even know anybody there anymore, so I just want us to keep in mind that we have a $27 million investment coming to 6th and University Avenue. That's a tremendous opportunity for job training. And they actually, from what I understand, have shifted almost all their IT type training and certificated programs and AS programs in those areas to that particular point. And if you look on the map, the proximity is awesome to embrace a lot of the folks that live and work or would like to work in this district. Anything that the CRA can do to collaborate with them to make it more convenient for our citizens to be able to avail themselves of that opportunity, I think is something we should jump on. I'm not asking for anything big, but just keep our minds aware that within the next year that project should be here. And I think it's just awesome as far as being able to uplift many, many people. Thank you.
Any other comments? Without objection, we're adjourned.